Chapter 669. Hearing Xue Zhizheng's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded. Hall leader Xue, since you trust me, can you help me this time? Xue Zhizheng hesitated for a moment before nodding. Okay, I can help you. Tell me, what should I tell you? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. Yi Tianhua harmed my son. I just want him to compensate me and get some benefits for the secret Thunder sect. But Yi Tianhua doesn't want to compensate me and doesn't want to agree to my conditions. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. If he really doesn't agree, then we'll have to take action. Take action? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng was shocked. Vice Hall leader Zhang, that's not necessary. Zhang Chunren shook his head and said fiercely, if Yi Tianhua doesn't agree to my conditions, I'll fight him to get justice for my son. Seeing Zhang Chunren's indignant look, Xue Zhizheng sighed inwardly. No one would feel good if this happened to them. Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yi Tianhua and shouted, Yi Tianhua, I'm asking you now, do you agree to my conditions? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I can only agree to your first or second conditions. I can't agree to all of them. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered and nodded. Okay, then I'll choose the first condition, 2 million gold coins. If you give me 2 million gold coins, I won't bother you anymore. Hearing this number, Yi Tianhua was shocked and said in a trembling voice, Zhang Chunren, that's too much. Where can I get 2 million gold coins for you? Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, this is your problem. If you give me 2 million gold coins, I'll let this matter pass. Yi Tianhua shook his head again. I don't have 2 million gold coins. If you want, I can only give you 500,000 gold coins at most. I really don't have any more than that. Hearing Yi Tianhua's reply, Zhang Chunren laughed wildly. After a while, he lowered his head and glared at Yi Tianhua, saying with hatred, Yi Tianhua, is my son only worth 500,000 gold coins? Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, you know that's not what I meant. I've already done my best to gather 500,000 gold coins for you. If you're still not satisfied, then I really can't do anything about it. And Hongda also said loudly, Zhang Chunren, don't push your luck. Your son's matter has nothing to do with us. We have nothing to do with you. Brother Yi is willing to compensate you 500,000 gold coins. That's enough. What do you want? Zhang Chunren sneered. And Hongda, you make it sound nice that it has nothing to do with you. Then tell me, what's the matter with the snow leopard? And Hongda shook his head. How would we know about the snow leopard? Besides, we don't even know if there is a snow leopard or not. Do you think we can do whatever you say? Zhang Chunren shouted sternly. And Hongda, are you saying that I'm lying to you? And Hongda sighed. Zhang Chunren, it doesn't matter if you're lying to us or not. But I can tell you clearly that your son's matter has nothing to do with us. We'll compensate you 500,000 gold coins as friends. If you don't agree, then I'm sorry, we won't even give you 500,000 gold coins. After hearing in Hongda's words, Zhang Chunren was so angry that his teeth almost cracked. He shouted, Yi Tianhua, since you can't take out 2 million gold coins, then I want the second condition. 5 years of information for free. If you agree to the price, then we'll call it a day. Zhang Chunren's words fell into silence. Yi Tianhua and the others didn't say anything. They just looked at Zhang Chunren quietly. Seeing this, Zhang Chunren frowned. Yi Tianhua, what do you mean? Are you going back on your word? Yi Tianhua shook his head. When he was about to speak, and Hongda spoke first, Zhang Chunren, I see that you've been talking for a long time. Your main purpose is the second condition, right? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing shouted, and Hongda, what do you mean? You asked us to state the conditions. Are you really going back on your word? And Hongda shook his head with a sneer. Zhang Chunren, you don't want gold coins, but you want free information for 5 years. Can you tell me why? Zhang Chunren sneered. And Hongda, why should I tell you? I just want to ask you, do you agree to my condition? Du Wubao suddenly smiled and asked, Zhang Chunren, can I ask you why you want this condition? This time, before Zhang Chunren could speak, Yuan Weiqing said, Vice Hall Leader Zhang wants to ask for some benefits for the secret Thunder Sect, so that we can find more ores. Can't we do that? Du Wubao shook his head. Is that so? Yuan Weiqing said angrily. Isn't that so? What is it? Du Wubao nodded. In that case, we can promise you 5 years of free information, but there must be a certain limit. At this point, Du Wubao paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply and continued to speak. The free information we provide for these 5 years is only limited to the ores that the secret Thunder Sect need. We won't mention anything else. What do you think? And Hongda also smiled and said, That's it. We will only provide you with information about ores. Other than that, don't even think about it. Hearing the two's words, Zhang Chunren was shocked and said quickly, How can this be? I've paid such a high price, but I can only get such little information. I absolutely won't agree to this. Hearing this, Yi Tianhua smiled. Zhang Chunren, since your condition is mainly for the benefit of the secret Thunder Sect, then our free information will be released for the ores that the secret Thunder Sect needs. If you agree, then we will sign the contract now. What do you think? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren was furious. Just as he was about to speak, Xue Zhizhen coughed lightly and interrupted him. When Xue Zhizhen saw Zhang Chunren turn his head to look at him, he said slowly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, didn't you just say that your purpose is to get this kind of information? Hearing Xue Zhizhen's question, Zhang Chunren sighed. Hall Leader Xue, do you think it's worth 2 million gold coins for such little information? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizhen was stunned. After calculating in his mind, he found that according to Yi Tianhua's condition, it was indeed more than 2 million gold coins. Zhang Chunren sighed. Hall Leader Xue, although I'm devoted to the secret Thunder Sect, I also need to make a living. I'm willing to give up 2 million gold coins for the secret Thunder Sect. Is it just for such little information? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizhen frowned. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, what do you want? Zhang Chunren clenched his teeth. I want them to promise me free information for 5 years, not only about the secret Thunder Sect, but all the information. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizhen shook his head. Zhang Chunren, that's impossible. Yi Tianhua will never agree to that. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sneered. If he doesn't agree, then don't blame me for being impolite. Xue Zhizhen was shocked. Do you want to fight? Zhang Chunyan nodded slowly. If Yi Tianhua doesn't agree to my condition, we can only fight and force him to agree. Xue Zhizhen said hesitantly, That's not good. Yi Tianhua has already taken a step back. If we fight, it won't be good for us. Zhang Chunren sneered. They harmed my son, is that good? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused, turned to look at Xue Zhizhen, and continued, Hall Leader Xue, will you help me? Xue Zhizhen hesitated for a moment, but did not answer immediately. Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. Hall Leader Xue, isn't it a bit unkind of you to do this? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Xue Zhizhen's answer. You're very happy that I'm doing this for the benefit of the secret Thunder Sect, but can't you fight for me? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizhen could not help but frown. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, these are two different things. How can you mix them up? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Hall Leader Xue, you're wrong. This is the same thing. We can only force Yi Tianhua to agree to our condition. Only then can we use this free information to make the secret Thunder Sect more powerful. At the same time, I can earn back my 2 million gold coins. What's wrong with that? Hearing Zhang Chunren's theory, Xue Zhizhen felt that something was wrong, but he could not refute it at the moment. After a while, he sighed. Vice Hall Leader Zhang, I think it's better to give up this condition and ask for gold coins directly. This will save a lot of trouble, and it won't hurt our friendship. Zhang Chunren sneered. Hall leader Shui, since you think they'll agree to the first condition, you can talk to them. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment and then continued, as long as they agree to give me 2 million gold coins, the second condition will be invalid. What do you think? Hearing this, Shui Zhijing was stunned. After coming to his senses, he slowly said, Vice Hall leader Zhang, Yi Tianhua just said that he only has 500,000 gold coins, not 2 million gold coins. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Shui Zhijing, and said word by word, Hall leader Shui, can my son's problem be solved with 500,000 gold coins? Shui Zhijing shook his head. Vice Hall leader Zhang, you know I don't mean that. Huosheng has already gone, and we have to continue. If we offend the Shadow Alliance because of this, it's not good for either of us. Vice Hall leader Zhang, you have to think carefully. Don't act rashly. Zhang Chunren sneered. Hall Master Shui, could it be that you want me to swallow this humiliation in silence? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Shui Zhijing's answer. Hall leader Shui, that's impossible. I want them to compensate me until I'm satisfied. Otherwise, I won't agree. Shui Zhijing sighed. Vice Hall leader Zhang, I know you're sad, but I think the 500,000 gold coins Yi Tianhua gave you is not a small amount. Why don't we just let it go? Hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren shook his head. No, they set me up. How can I let them go so easily? Otherwise, I'll be sorry for my Huosheng. Seeing that Zhang Chunren was determined, Shui Zhijing could only sigh helplessly in his heart, and said no more. Seeing that Shui Zhijing was silent, Zhang Chunren asked in a deep voice, Hall leader Shui, I just want to ask you, will you help me or not? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Shui Zhijing sighed. Vice Hall leader Zhang, I promise you, but let me make it clear in advance. I'll only help you, but I'll never hurt anyone. If you don't agree to my condition, I can't do anything. Hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren immediately cupped his fists. Thank you, Hall leader Shui. Yi Tianhua's martial arts are strong. I'm afraid we're no match for him. If you can hold Yi Tianhua back, we'll deal with an Hongda and Du Wudai. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Shui Zhijing sighed. Vice Hall Master Zhang, no matter what, we are all from South County. Don't go too far. Try not to hurt people if you can. As long as the matter is resolved, it will be fine. Zhang Chunren nodded. Hall leader Shui, as long as Yi Tianhua agrees to my condition, I promise I won't do anything to them. But if he still doesn't agree, then please hold Yi Tianhua back for me. You don't have to worry about anything else. Seeing that Zhang Chunren had made up his mind, Shui Zhijing was at his wits' end. After all, Zhang Chunren's son, Zhang Huosheng, had been killed. Seeing that Shui Zhijing had agreed to his request, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yi Tianhua and asked loudly, Yi Tianhua, my son's matter must be solved today. If you don't agree, then don't blame me for being rude. Yi Tianhua heard this and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I know you're sad about losing your son, but everything is reasonable. We did sell you the information about the Flaming Stone, but we didn't know there was a snow leopard next to the Flaming Stone. You can't blame us. Your son was killed by the snow leopard when he was looking for the Flaming Stone. Speaking of which, you can only blame it on your own carelessness. You didn't take the necessary precautions, which led to this disaster. You can't blame us for this. Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. However, I didn't hold it against you because you were sad about losing your son. You said you'd compensate me with gold coins, so I'll do my best to compensate you with some gold coins to ease the pain in your heart. However, not only are you not grateful, but you're also aggressive and want to get more benefits. Zhang Chunren, I'll say it again. This matter has nothing to do with us. Your son was killed by the snow leopard and it's your own business. The reason I'm compensating you is not because I did something wrong, but because I sympathize with you. Chapter 670. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was furious and shouted, "Yi Tianhua, you still don't want to admit that it's your fault? Don't you have any conscience?" Du Wubao suddenly said loudly, "Zhang Chunren, Big Brother Yi has already said that this matter has nothing to do with us. The reason why he will compensate you with 500,000 gold coins is because you have lost your son. That's why he will compensate you." Zhang Chunren turned to look at Du Wudai and said coldly, "Du Wudai, according to what you said, you have no responsibility for my son's death?" Du Wudai nodded and said without hesitation, "No, this matter has nothing to do with us. We only sold you the information about the fire soaring stone. As for other accidents, it's your own problem." Zhang Chunren sneered and nodded. "Du Wudai, if you say it has nothing to do with you, then let me ask you, what's going on with the snow leopard?" Du Wudai shook his head. "I don't know. If you let us go back and investigate, we will definitely find out the truth." Yuan Weiqing suddenly said loudly, "I think you don't want to go back and investigate this matter, but want to take the opportunity to slip away." Du Wudai shook his head again. "Such a big thing happened. Do you think we can slip away just because we want to?" At this point, Du Wubao paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply and continued to speak. "Even if we go back, we just want to investigate this matter clearly. When we find out the truth, we can discuss how to solve it. Isn't that better?" LV Hushan suddenly said loudly, "Du Wudai, you're talking nonsense. Now that the evidence is conclusive, it's your fault. Even now, you still dare to lie to us. Do you think our secret Thunder sect is easy to bully?" Du Wudai shook his head. "How could it be like this? I really don't know why the snow leopard appeared there. I just want to know the truth, why such a thing happened." When Yuan Weiqing heard this, he instantly let out a sneer. "Du Wudai, stop pretending. This is obviously your plan. How could you not know about it?" Du Wubao shook his head. "No, this has absolutely nothing to do with us. We, the Shadow Alliance, sell information. If we know about the snow leopard, even if we don't remind you, we will find a way to sell this information to you." Yuan Weiqing sneered. "Du Wubao, do you think I will believe you?" Du Wubao smiled bitterly and said, "Whether you believe it or not, we really don't know. If we knew, we would definitely remind you." Zhang Chunren suddenly said loudly, "Yi Tianhua, I don't care if you know about this or not. I can tell you that if some other monster had appeared beside the flaming stone, I wouldn't have blamed you. However, if a snow leopard that doesn't wander around appeared, I will never forgive you. Yi Tianhua, let's cut the crap. You know what I mean. The snow leopard wouldn't have wandered around. This proves that it has been beside the flaming crystal for a long time. However, you guys refused to tell us that such a big thing had happened. So no matter what, you must settle this today. Otherwise, I will never let you leave." When Yi Tianhua heard this, he turned to look at Xue Zhizheng and asked with a bitter smile, "Hall Master Xue, what do you think?" Xue Zhizheng shook his head with a bitter smile. "Yi Tianhua, this is indeed your fault." Xue Zhizheng paused for a moment before he continued, "Vice Hall Master Zhang is right. If something else had appeared beside the flaming crystal, it could be said that this monster had suddenly appeared or was just passing by and Huosheng and the others had encountered it. They could only say that they were unlucky and we would never blame you. However, the snow leopard is different from other monsters. It has its own territory and will never leave it easily. This means that the flaming crystal is indeed in the snow leopard's territory. And you guys really didn't tell us about this?" At this point, Xue Zhizheng paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Yi Tianhua to answer him and continued speaking. "Yi Tianhua, even if you had sold this information to us, I wouldn't have blamed you. However, you knew that there was a snow leopard there and you didn't warn us, causing us to suffer a great loss. Based on this alone, Yi Tianhua, do you think I can forgive you? After hearing Xue Zhizheng's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head with a bitter smile. Hall Master Xue, I've already said that I really didn't know about this. The snow leopard does have its own territory, and I know that they won't leave it easily. However, I'm also wondering why no one told me about this. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Xue Zhizheng to answer him, and continued speaking. Hall Master Xue, you must know that the Shadow Alliance mainly relies on selling information. We investigate every piece of information in great detail. If there was a snow leopard beside the flaming crystal, our people would definitely know about it. Even if we didn't sell this information to you, I should have known about it, right? However, I just didn't know. No one told me that there was a snow leopard beside the flaming crystal. Therefore, I'm also wondering why this would happen. Hall Master Xue, give me some time to go back and investigate. I'll find out what the problem is. What do you think? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, before Xue Zhizheng could say anything, Zhang Chunren spoke first. Yi Tianhua, everything is based on the word reason. Let me ask you. Even if you go back and investigate clearly, can you not end this with me? Yi Tianhua hurriedly shook his head when he heard this. I won't. As long as I find out the truth, I'll definitely settle this matter. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, since you know that you're in the wrong and you'll have to settle this sooner or later, why don't you settle it now? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Yi Tianhua to answer his question and continued speaking. Yi Tianhua, that's why I don't believe you. You're definitely trying to take the opportunity to slip away. You're not sincerely trying to solve this problem. Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, that's right. Perhaps Yi Tianhua is behind this. His goal is to target the Tan Thunder sect. That's why he doesn't want to settle this with us. Zhang Chunren heard this and glared at Yi Tianhua. Yi Tianhua, since you'll have to settle this matter sooner or later, why don't you settle it now? Yi Tianhua was stunned when he heard Zhang Chunren's question. Then, he said, Zhang Chunren, the matter hasn't been clarified yet. How dare you say that it's our fault? Yuan Weiqing was furious when he heard this. Yi Tianhua, since you know that the snow leopard won't wander around, the flaming crystal must be in the snow leopard's territory. Do you think there's anything wrong with that? Yi Tianhua shook his head. I don't know. I just want to find out the truth. Zhang Chunren said in a low voice. Yi Tianhua, after all this talk, you just don't want to care about this matter? Yi Tianhua shook his head. That's not what I mean. If it's our fault, I'll find a way to compensate you. But if it's not our fault, then there's nothing we can do. Zhang Chunren said angrily. Yi Tianhua, you're talking nonsense. Do you think I'll joke about my own son? Yi Tianhua shook his head. No, I don't believe in that possibility either. But we can only make a judgment after we find out the truth. Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. Yi Tianhua, does that mean you don't want to compensate us today? Yi Tianhua nodded. No matter what, I have to find out the truth and find out where the problem lies. Zhang Chunren nodded with a cold smile when he heard Yi Tianhua's answer. He turned to Xue Zhizheng and said in a low voice, Xue Zhizheng, Xue Zhizheng, Xue Zhizheng will not admit defeat. Hall Master Xue, Yi Tianhua won't admit his mistake. We can only use force. When I say we're going to attack, you just need to stop Yi Tianhua. I'll take care of the rest. Hearing this, Xue Zhizheng was stunned. He frowned and asked, Zhang Chunren, are we going to attack now? Zhang Chunren nodded. If I don't get justice for my son, I won't be able to swallow this. Hall Master Xue, please. Seeing that Zhang Chunren had made up his mind, Xue Zhizheng sighed secretly and nodded slightly. Vice Hall Master Zhang, we just need to get justice. We can't hurt anyone. If it causes a fight between the Shadow Alliance and the Secret Thunder Sect, it won't be good. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sneered and nodded. Then he turned to Yi Tianhua and asked loudly, Yi Tianhua, I'll ask you again. Will you compensate us or not? Yi Tianhua shook his head. I have to tell you the truth before I can give you a clear answer. Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth and asked, My 2 conditions are 2 million gold coins and 5 years of information. Don't you want to choose one? Yi Tianhua shook his head with a wry smile. Zhang Chunren, I want to choose the first option, but I don't have 2 million gold coins. If 500,000 gold coins is enough, I can agree to your first condition. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, As for the second condition, I will not agree to it. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, a cold light flashed in Zhang Chunren's eyes. He suddenly turned to Xue Zhijing and shouted, Attack! As soon as Zhang Chunren's voice fell, Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan rushed towards An Hongda and Du Wudai. Zhang Chunren stared at Xue Zhijing. Seeing that Xue Zhijing didn't move, he couldn't help but shout, Hall Master Xue, what are you waiting for? Hearing Zhang Chunren's second shout, Xue Zhijing sighed. He pulled out his long sword and rushed towards Yi Tianhua. Yi Tianhua originally wanted to help when he saw Yuan Weiqing and LV Hushan rushing over. However, he was shocked when he saw that Xue Zhijing was already rushing towards him. Yi Tianhua's martial arts were very high. Among the people present, he was second to none. The only person present who could stop Yi Tianhua was Xue Zhijing. Seeing that Xue Zhijing was rushing towards Yi Tianhua, Zhang Chunren's lips curled into a smile. He then jumped up and rushed towards An Hongda. Seeing that the enemy's experts were all out, Yi Tianhua felt that something was wrong. However, he didn't panic because of his high martial arts. Seeing that Xue Zhijing was rushing over, he hurriedly pulled out his long sword to meet him. But the 2 people's swords collided and made a crisp sound. Xue Zhijing used the force to land on the ground. He turned the sword in his hand and attacked Yi Tianhua again. Although Yi Tianhua's martial arts were high, he didn't dare to be careless when Xue Zhijing took the initiative. He hurriedly withdrew his sword and met Xue Zhijing's long sword. Yuan Weiqing's back was injured. Although he forcefully rushed forward, the pain from his back made him suck in a breath of cold air. His opponent, An Hongda, was also injured in his arm. However, An Hongda's injury was on his left arm. Although it affected a part of his martial arts, the effect was minimal. LV Hushan directly rushed in front of Du Wubao and swung his fist towards Du Wubao's face. Du Wudai saw LV Hushan's fist flying towards him and hurriedly lowered his body to dodge it. At the same time, he punched towards LV Hushan's ribs. LV Hushan's punch missed. Seeing Du Wudai's fist coming towards him, he hurriedly lifted his leg to block Du Wudai's fist. At the same time, he didn't retract his fist that missed and directly smashed towards Du Wudai's back. Du Wudai's punch missed. He had already expected that LV Hushan would attack his guard. He hurriedly leaped out and dodged LV Hushan's attack. LV Hushan and Du Wudai fought fiercely. An Hongda and Yuan Weiqing were slightly weaker. Both of them were injured. If they moved vigorously, they would immediately pull at their wounds. That kind of pain was something that neither of them wanted to experience. Looking at Yuan Weiqing's painful face, An Hongda was secretly happy. He knew that Yuan Weiqing's injuries were more serious than his. Therefore, he pretended to be seriously injured and prepared to take Yuan Weiqing by surprise. When Yuan Weiqing let his guard down, he would defeat him in one fell swoop. Yuan Weiqing's injuries on the ground were very serious. Every time he used his saber, it would cause a heart-wrenching pain. In addition, they still had Zhang Chunren who hadn't made a move yet. Therefore, Yuan Weiqing wasn't in a hurry. As long as Zhang Chunren arrived, he could easily defeat them. And Hongda naturally knew this, so he wanted to end the battle quickly. However, Yuan Weiqing didn't give him the chance. Although his back was injured, The saber in his hand was constantly waving in front of him to neutralize An Hongda's attack. Yuan Weiqing defended with all his strength. It wasn't an easy task for An Hongda to end the battle quickly. At this moment, An Hongda heard a loud shout from afar. When he turned his head, he saw Zhang Chunren rushing towards them. He was instantly shocked and hurriedly took 2 steps back to distance himself from Yuan Weiqing. Zhang Chunren rushed to the front of the two. Without saying a word, he directly waved his saber and rushed towards An Hongda. Seeing this, An Hongda knew that it was too late to dodge. He also wanted to test Zhang Chunren's martial arts, so he hurriedly drew his saber and went forward. But in this attack, both of them had the attitude of testing each other's martial arts. Therefore, both of their sabers collided accurately. Instantly, a crisp sound was heard. After the sound, Zhang Chunren took a step back and stabilized his body. Chapter 671. However, An Hongda was forced back 3 or 4 steps by the impact before he managed to stabilize himself. Zhang Chunren sneered and rushed forward again with his saber. An Hongda did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly waved his saber and blocked Zhang Chunren's saber. Zhang Chunren's saber turned, and the shiny steel saber brought out a saber light. It bypassed An Hongda's saber and continued to slash at him. Seeing this, An Hongda hurriedly swept the saber in his hand and shook off Zhang Chunren's saber. At this moment, An Hongda was about to withdraw his saber when he suddenly felt a gust of cold wind from the side. He was shocked and wanted to dodge to the side, but Zhang Chunren's saber was blocking him. He had no choice but to jump into the air. Who knew that before An Hongda could jump high, he felt a chill on his leg. Following that, a sharp pain came. It was so painful that he could not help but scream. He flew out diagonally in the air and landed on the ground. As soon as he landed, An Hongda felt that the injury on his leg hurt even more. It was so painful that he almost fell to the ground. An Hongda was shocked. Before he could react, he saw a white light flash in front of him. Zhang Chunren was attacking again. An Hongda hurriedly waved his saber to block. The 2 sabers collided. An Hongda's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground from the force of the saber. Yuan Weiqing also rushed up and chopped An Hongda's other leg with his saber. Ah! Feeling the pain on his leg, An Hongda screamed again. He wanted to get up, but the injury on his leg hurt so much that his forehead broke out in cold sweat. He could not stand up. Zhang Chunren sneered and no longer looked at An Hongda. He turned to look at the battle between Du Wudai and LV Hushan. Then, he signaled to Yuan Weiqing with his eyes. Yuan Weiqing immediately understood and silently rushed towards Du Wubao. An Hongda's scream just now had already alarmed Du Wudai. Looking at An Hongda, who was lying on the ground, Du Wudai was shocked. He knew that things were going to be bad this time. Yuan Weiqing had only taken 2 steps forward when he suddenly heard footsteps from the side. He hurriedly turned his head and saw the 3 young men who had been standing behind Yi Tianhua and the others rushing over. Yuan Weiqing sneered and immediately stopped. He turned his head and looked at the 3 young men. Suddenly, he let out a low roar. His figure turned into a flash of lightning and rushed towards the young man who was in the front. Ah! Following a blood-curdling scream, Sima Sheng, who had rushed to the front, was already lying on the ground. Seeing this, Lu Chuan and Shadowless, who were under Sima Sheng's body, couldn't help but stop. Run! Just as the 2 of them were in a daze, Du Wubao's urgent voice sounded from the side. Don't just stand there. Run. You're no match for them. After hearing Du Wudai's words, Lu Chuan and Shadowless froze for a moment. They immediately turned around and wanted to run, but it was too late. Yuan Weiqing's martial arts were far superior to theirs. It was basically impossible for them to run away from Yuan Weiqing. Ah! In the blink of an eye, along with Yuan Weiqing's cold laughter, Lu Chuan was also slashed to the ground by Yuan Weiqing. Shadowless's Qinggong was slightly better and he actually dodged this attack. Seeing that the situation was not right, he quickly turned around and ran. But who knew that just as he ran, there was a whooshing sound behind him. Before he could react, a rock smashed into his back. Ah! Shadowless screamed and fell to the ground. Seeing this, Du Wudai was shocked. He couldn't care less anymore and hurriedly turned his head to look at Yi Tianhua not far away and shouted, "Brother Yi, don't worry about us. Run." Yi Tianhua also saw the situation here, but he couldn't do anything. Although Xue Zhizheng's martial arts were slightly weaker than his, if he wanted to win, it was definitely not something that could be done in a short period of time. If Yi Tianhua dared to do anything else when fighting with a master like Xue Zhizheng again, he might not even be able to protect himself. After hearing Du Wudai's words, Yi Tianhua frowned. He knew that the situation was irreversible, and his heart immediately sprouted the thought of retreating. Seeing that Yi Tianhua wanted to leave, Zhang Chunren knew that it was not good. He hurriedly gave Yuan Weiqing a look and immediately rushed towards Du Wudai with his sword. Du Wudai's martial arts were slightly better than LV Hushan, but he was only suitable for Zhang Chunren. Now that he was surrounded by 3 masters, it only took a moment for his arm to be hit by a sword. Du Wudai knew that it was not good. His eyes turned and he suddenly roared. A black ball of light suddenly flew out from between his 2 hands and smashed towards LV Hushan, who was directly opposite him. Seeing the black ball of light, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed. In a panic, he wanted to stop it, but it was too late. He could only try his best to jump to the side, trying to avoid Du Wudai's attack. Seeing that LV Hushan had left his position, Du Wudai was overjoyed. He hurriedly exerted force on his feet and his whole body suddenly bounced up and rushed forward with all his might. Boom! Just as Du Wudai rushed out a few steps, not far in front of him, there was a sudden explosion. A ball of fire ignited in front of him. Du Wudai was shocked and hurriedly stopped. But just as he stopped, Zhang Chunren and the other 2 people surrounded him again. Zhang Chunren sneered, "Du Wudai want to run? It's not that easy." Just as Zhang Chunren's voice fell, he saw Du Wubao, who was in front of him, suddenly spring up and leap towards a tree at the side. At the same time, Yuan Weiqing, who had been paying attention to Du Wudai, also hurriedly rushed towards him. Just as Du Wudai landed on the tree, a white light flashed by the corner of his eyes. He was shocked and hurriedly stepped on the treetop, wanting to jump to another tree. But Yuan Weiqing's speed was too fast. If Du Wudai did not care, he would definitely be hit by Yuan Weiqing. But since things had already come to this, Du Wudai had no other choice. Borrowing the force of the treetop, he jumped towards another tree. Just as the tree branch bounced up, Yuan Weiqing's sword had already chopped the tree branch, cutting it off. Although Du Wudai still jumped away, his strength was reduced by a lot. He did not jump to another tree, but landed on the ground. LV Hushan, who had been waiting under the tree, saw Du Wudai land and immediately roared. He waved his fist towards Du Wudai, who was in the air. Before Du Wudai landed on the ground, he was sent flying by LV Hushan's fist. Just as Du Wudai landed on the ground, Zhang Chunren had already rushed in front of him and punched him. Du Wudai only felt his vision turn black. He screamed and fainted. Looking at the fainted Du Wudai, Zhang Chunren turned his head and looked at Yi Tianhua, who was fighting with Xue Zhizheng. He sneered, "Yi Tianhua, it's your turn." Yi Tianhua saw that everyone had been defeated and was shocked. He pushed back Xue Zhizheng with his sword and said angrily, "Hall Master Xue, what do you mean by this? Do you really want to start a fight between Shadow Alliance and Secret Thunder Sect?" Xue Zhizheng sighed, "Yi Tianhua, I have no choice in this matter. You made a mistake first, so I can only seek justice for Vice Hall Master Zhang." Bulsh *T. Hearing Xue Zhizheng's words, Yi Tianhua was enraged, Hall Master Shui, before the matter is investigated, how can you be so sure that it's our fault? Clap clap. Just as Yi Tianhua finished speaking, Zhang Chunren walked over slowly and clapped his hands. He sneered. Yi Tianhua, even now you still want to quibble. Looks like I have to take you down today. After saying this, Zhang Chunren waved his saber. A flash of saber light rose in front of him and flew towards Yi Tianhua. Looking at the bright flash of saber light flying towards him, Yi Tianhua sighed. The sword in his hand danced 3 times and gently waved in front of him, pushing Zhang Chunren back. Zhang Chunren, you keep saying that it's our fault. What proof do you have? Zhang Chunren was shocked that he was pushed back by Yi Tianhua. But with Shui Zhijing present, he was not afraid. He laughed coldly. Yi Tianhua, isn't the snow leopard incident enough proof? Yi Tianhua shook his head. I've said it before. I don't know what's going on. No one told me about the snow leopard. I only heard about it from you today. Zhang Chunren laughed coldly and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, don't spout nonsense. When I sent the letter, I already told him to tell you. Why are you denying it now? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned. Only then did he remember that the messenger did say that Zhang Huosheng was killed by the snow leopard. But at that time, Yi Tianhua did not think in this direction, so he did not care. Seeing that Yi Tianhua did not reply, Zhang Chunren laughed coldly again. Yi Tianhua, now you have nothing to say? Yi Tianhua laughed bitterly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I really did not think in this direction. But now that I know, I will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. When the time comes, as long as I find out the truth, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, I don't want you to give me an answer in the future. I only want you to give me an answer now. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. But immediately after, he did not wait for Yi Tianhua to reply and shouted loudly. Yi Tianhua, you must agree to my 2 conditions today. If you don't blame us for being merciless. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua turned to look at An Hongda and Du Wudai. His heart sank as he said bitterly, Zhang Chunren, because of this matter, 2 of my brothers have already been injured by you. What more do you want? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren laughed coldly. Yi Tianhua, can you blame us? If you had agreed to our conditions, this would not have happened. Yi Tianhua laughed bitterly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, of your 2 conditions, I can agree to the first one. But please forgive me for not agreeing to the second one. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren's eyes turned cold and he shouted sternly, Yi Tianhua, you really don't agree? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, I've already said that I will definitely get to the bottom of this matter. When the time comes, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. What else do you want me to do? When Yuan Weiqing heard these words, he immediately shouted out, Yi Tianhua, we are not begging you. It is your Shadow Alliance that is trying to harm our secret Thunder Sect. If you agree to our conditions, it is because you are repenting for the things that you have done wrong, not because we are begging you. Yi Tianhua, since you are not willing to make up for what you have done, then don't blame us for being impolite. Yi Tianhua laughed coldly. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said indifferently, Yuan Weiqing, do you think you can beat me like this? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed coldly and said, Yi Tianhua, you are the only one left. Do you think you can beat the 4 of us by yourself? Yi Tianhua sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I hope that we can discuss this matter peacefully. Don't go too far. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for the others to answer him and continued to speak. If you really want to go too far, then bear the consequences. At the end of his sentence, Yi Tianhua's eyes were filled with frost. Seeing Yi Tianhua's cold eyes, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. For some reason, he actually felt a little scared. Seeing the coldness in Yi Tianhua's eyes, Zhang Chunren was also shocked. However, when he turned to look at Xue Zhizhing, he felt much more at ease. Zhang Chunren was very clear that Xue Zhizhing might not be Yi Tianhua's match, but he was definitely not that far off. If the three of them joined forces, Zhang Chunren was sure that even if Yi Tianhua was extremely powerful, he would definitely not be a match for the four of them. Understanding this, Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth and turned to look at Yi Tianhua. He shouted sternly, "Yi Tianhua, don't talk so much nonsense. I just want to ask you, do you agree to my conditions?" Yi Tianhua shook his head again. He looked coldly at Zhang Chunren and said word by word, "Zhang Chunren, I have already said that after I investigate this matter thoroughly, I will give you a satisfactory answer." Zhang Chunren laughed coldly. "Yi Tianhua, what if I ask you to answer now?" Yi Tianhua shook his head, raised the sword in his hand and sighed, "Zhang Chunren, I don't want to fight with people because I don't want to hurt people. Now, you've already hurt two of my brothers, so I can let it go. However, if you continue to be so aggressive, don't blame my sword for being merciless." Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. "Yi Tianhua, are you trying to scare me?" Yi Tianhua shook his head. "Zhang Chunren, I have said that I don't want to fight with anyone. However, if you insist on fighting, I can only advise you not to fight. If I accidentally hurt you, don't blame me for being merciless." Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. Then, he threw his head back and laughed. After laughing, Zhang Chunren glared fiercely at Yi Tianhua and shouted sternly, "Yi Tianhua, very well. You have already used the snow leopard to harm my son. Now go ahead and harm all of us here. Only then will you be considered capable. Yi Tianhua, do you dare?" Chapter 672. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned for a moment. His original intention to hit Zhang Chunren had faded a little. "Zhang Chunren, I don't want to do it either, but you're forcing me, so I can only do it." At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, "Zhang Chunren, now that you've injured so many of us, why don't we all stop fighting? This matter has already become so big, if we continue to fight, I'm afraid we won't be able to end it." After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren nodded. "Yi Tianhua, you're right. As long as you agree to my conditions, we'll forget about this." After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua turned to look at An Hongdao and Du Wudai, then at Shadowless and the other two. He sighed, "Zhang Chunren, you've injured a total of 5 of us. I can agree to your conditions, but what do you want to do with the 5 of us who are injured?" As soon as Yi Tianhua finished speaking, before Zhang Chunren could say anything, Yuan Weiqing suddenly said loudly, "The 5 of them deserve to be injured. If you had agreed to our conditions earlier, they wouldn't have gotten injured. In the end, it's all your fault. If you want to take responsibility, you should take responsibility. What does it have to do with us?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua's expression changed. He said coldly, "Yuan Weiqing, what do you mean?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing looked up to the sky and laughed. An Hongda and Du Wudai overestimated themselves and wanted to go against us. They're lucky that we didn't kill them today. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua's expression darkened. "Yuan Weiqing, we're here to negotiate, not to fight. If you continue to be so rude, don't blame me for hitting you." After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He knew that Yi Tianhua's martial arts were strong and he was definitely not his opponent. However, after seeing Yi Tianhua's opponent, Xue Zhizhing, Yuan Weiqing's confidence increased. Xue Zhizhing was the hall master of the Tantric Thunder sect. His martial arts were unfathomable. Yuan Weiqing was sure that Xue Zhizhing's martial arts were not below Yi Tianhua's. As long as Xue Zhizhing was present, Yi Tianhua would never be able to hurt him. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing immediately raised his head and sneered. "Yi Tianhua, you don't have to threaten me. Let me tell you, I'm not afraid." Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yi Tianhua's reply and continued. "Yi Tianhua, if you know what's good for you, quickly agree to our conditions. Otherwise, you'll end up like an Hongda and Du Wudai." As soon as Yuan Weiqing finished speaking, he saw a white light flash in front of his eyes and a chill quickly hit him. Before he could react, his arm was cold, followed by a piercing pain from his arm. Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but cry out in pain and subconsciously took a few steps back. Xue Zhizhing wanted to go forward to save them, but it was already too late. At this moment, Xue Zhizhing was truly horrified. Xue Zhizhing suddenly realized that Yi Tianhua didn't seem to have used his full strength when sparring with him. If Yi Tianhua had attacked Yuan Weiqing with his sword, Xue Zhizhing wouldn't have been able to block it so easily. Yi Tianhua slowly sheathed his sword and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He said coldly, "Yuan Weiqing, I'll teach you a lesson so that you won't hurt people with your words." Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, "If there's a next time, my sword won't cut your arm. Do you understand?" Yuan Weiqing's face was pale as he covered his wound with his hand. He looked at Yi Tianhua in shock and couldn't say a word. Yuan Weiqing wasn't the only one who was shocked. Zhang Chunren was also shocked. He never thought that Yi Tianhua's martial arts would be so high that he could injure Yuan Weiqing in front of Xue Zhizhing. Zhang Chunren thought of Yi Tianhua's sword and his forehead broke out in cold sweat. If that sword had been aimed at him, it would have been terrible. However, although Yi Tianhua's martial arts were high, it only made Zhang Chunren nervous. It was impossible for him to be afraid. Zhang Chunren turned to look at Xue Zhizhing and saw that he was looking at Yi Tianhua nervously. Only then did he feel relieved. Xue Zhizhing's martial arts were high. If he fought with Yi Tianhua, it wouldn't be so easy for Yi Tianhua to hurt others. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yi Tianhua and shouted, "Yi Tianhua, do you dare to hurt people?" Yi Tianhua sneered and shook his head. "Zhang Chunren, Yuan Weiqing speaks without thinking. I was just teaching him a lesson just now. I want him to understand that he shouldn't speak carelessly to avoid trouble. Is there anything wrong with that?" Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. "Yi Tianhua, Yuan Weiqing is a member of our secret Thunder sect. Do you have no right to hurt him?" Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Yi Tianhua to answer him and continued, "Yuan Weiqing is right. Moreover, what Yuan Weiqing said makes sense. If you had agreed to my conditions earlier, why would we have acted against an Hongda and Du Wudai? If you want to blame someone, blame yourselves." Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head. "Zhang Chunren, we'll talk about your matter later. You've hurt so many of our people. Do you want to just let it go like this?" Zhang Chunren shook his head. "You can't blame us for this. You're the one who asked for trouble. If you had agreed to our conditions earlier, we wouldn't have had the time to deal with you." Yi Tianhua sneered. "Zhang Chunren, it's true that your son was killed by the snow leopard. It was your own carelessness, but you came to us and asked us to agree to your rude conditions. Is this the right thing to do?" Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. "Zhang Chunren, these brothers of mine have nothing to do with you. However, you were so vicious and hurt them so badly." Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua took a step forward and closed the distance between him and Zhang Chunren. Then, he shouted sternly, "Zhang Chunren, no matter what, you have to settle this matter for me today. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Do you understand?" Looking at Yi Tianhua's fierce gaze, Zhang Chunren subconsciously took a step back. He still felt a chill in his heart, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Yi Tianhua, I've already said that if you had agreed to our conditions earlier, they wouldn't have been hurt. You can't blame us. Tianhua shook his head. I don't want to talk about this matter anymore. I only know that everyone should talk things out. Even if someone did something wrong, you can't be so heavy-handed. Speaking of this, Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. Zhang Chunren, don't tell me that you were so heavy-handed and hurt them so badly. Do you have an explanation? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren roared, Tianhua, as long as you agree to my conditions, I'll compensate you. Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I'm talking about this matter now. I just want to ask you, An Hongda and Du Wudai were injured by you. How do you want to deal with them? Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth. Tianhua, as long as you agree to my conditions, I'll treat them immediately. What do you think? Treat them? Tianhua laughed coldly and turned to look at Zhang Chunren. He suddenly said loudly, Zhang Chunren, if it's just treating them, do you think I still need you? Tianhua paused for a moment, but before Zhang Chunren could answer him, he suddenly shouted, What the hell are you doing? Zhang Chunren, you have to give me a solution today. If you can't find a solution, none of you can leave today. Hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed coldly. Tianhua, I admit that when it comes to bragging, none of us can compare to you. Haha, speaking of this, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but laugh. After laughing, he snorted coldly and said slowly, Tianhua, do you think that you alone can keep all of us here? Haha, towards the end, Zhang Chunren laughed again. Yuan Weiqing, whose face was originally filled with pain, laughed at this moment. Tianhua, I admit that I'm not your match. But do you think that all of us together are not your match? Tianhua turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, do you still want to try? Looking at Tianhua's cold eyes, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he hurriedly took a step back. However, he didn't back down. Tianhua, our Hall Master Xue is here. Do you dare to be impudent? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhizheng could only cough lightly and say loudly, Tianhua, it's not appropriate for you to say that. I admit that your martial arts are strong, but if you want to take on so many of us at once, it doesn't seem very possible. Tianhua shook his head. Hall Master Xue, to tell you the truth, I only used 50% of my strength when I fought with you just now. If you don't agree to my conditions, then don't blame me for not going easy on you. 50% of your strength. Hearing Tianhua's words, Xue Zhizheng suddenly exclaimed. He never thought that Tianhua would only use 50% of his strength in the fight just now. Xue Zhizheng also admitted that he didn't use his full strength just now. Even so, he used 80% of his strength and was almost defeated by Tianhua. What did this mean? It meant that he was definitely not Tianhua's opponent, and was probably much weaker. Tianhua suddenly sighed. Hall Master Xue, I came here with sincerity, but look, what kind of conditions are you offering? At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Xue Zhizheng to reply and continued speaking. You want me to compensate with gold coins, I'll accept it. Seeing that Zhang Chunren lost his only son, I'll compensate you with some gold coins as an apology. But you're not satisfied and want a second condition, which is 5 years of free information. Hall Master Xue, do you think that's possible? If I ask for a large amount of free firearms from your Tantric Thunder sect, will you agree? At this point, Tianhua snorted coldly and didn't wait for Xue Zhizheng to reply. Hall Master Xue, I believe that you definitely won't agree. Hall Master Xue, since you won't agree, how can I agree to such a rude condition? Hearing Tianhua's words, Xue Zhizheng smiled bitterly and shook his head, but didn't say anything, because in his heart, he felt that this matter wasn't very appropriate. The Shadow Alliance relied on large amounts of information for a living. Asking for 5 years of free information was indeed unreasonable. It was almost like cutting off their rice bowl, and no one would agree. Although Xue Zhijing didn't say anything, Zhang Chunren sternly shouted, "Yi Tianhua, you only have yourself to blame. If you didn't have bad intentions and deliberately didn't tell us about the snow leopard, my son wouldn't have been killed by the snow leopard. Since your information is harmful, why don't you give it to us so that you won't harm others?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sneered and shook his head. "Zhang Chunren, you keep saying that our information is harmful. Then let me ask you, what evidence do you have to prove that our information is harmful?" Zhang Chunren sneered. "Yi Tianhua, you actually want evidence? Haha, my son was killed by the snow leopard. Isn't that evidence?" Yi Tianhua shook his head. "Zhang Chunren, I don't know what happened to your son, Zhang Huoxing, so I can't answer you." Speaking up to this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but immediately after, he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question, and continued speaking. "Zhang Chunren, I will investigate this matter thoroughly and find out the reason for this situation. When the time comes, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer." Speaking up to this point, Yi Tianhua turned his head to look at An Hongda and Du Wudai, then continued, "Zhang Chunren, that matter hasn't been investigated thoroughly, so I can't promise you anything. However, An Hongda and Du Wudai's matter is clear. They were injured by you. Today, you must give me a satisfactory answer, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Hearing this, Zhang Chunren said angrily, "Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense. If you had agreed to my conditions, An Hongda and Du Wudai wouldn't have been injured." Yi Tianhua shook his head. "Zhang Chunren, it's useless to say those things. I only saw you suddenly injuring An Hongda and Du Wudai. You have to give me a satisfactory answer. As for other things, we can talk about them after the investigation." Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren gritted his teeth and shouted, "Yi Tianhua, I'm telling you, if you don't solve my son's matter today, I won't talk about anything else." Hearing Zhang Chunren's answer, Yi Tianhua sneered, "Zhang Chunren, is what you said true?" Chapter 673. Yi Tianhua sighed. "Zhang Chunren, do you really want me to do it?" Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was taken aback. But seeing Xue Zhijing beside him, he felt a little more confident. "Yi Tianhua, cut the crap. Today, I'll make you agree to my conditions. If you don't..." Before Zhang Chunren could finish his words, he saw a white light flash in front of him. Then, he heard a crisp sound of metal colliding. Zhang Chunren was so scared that he tried his best to retreat. After he steadied himself, he saw that Xue Zhijing was already in front of him. Xue Zhijing's expression was ugly. He didn't expect that Yi Tianhua would dare to attack Zhang Chunren in front of him. "Yi Tianhua, what do you mean by this?" Yi Tianhua sneered. "Zhang Chunren is talking nonsense. I want to teach him a lesson. Is there anything wrong with that?" Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Xue Zhijing was annoyed. He shouted, "Yi Tianhua, let's talk things over. Why do you have to do this?" Hearing this, Yi Tianhua turned to look at Zhang Chunren and sneered, "Zhang Chunren, let me ask you now. How do you want to settle the matter of An Hongda and Du Wudai?" Hearing this, Zhang Chunren looked at Xue Zhijing in front of him. Knowing that Yi Tianhua couldn't hurt him, he shouted, "Yi Tianhua, we'll talk about An Hongda and Du Wudai later. Today we have to settle the matter of my son first." Saying this, Zhang Chunren paused for a while before continuing, "Yi Tianhua, as long as you agree to my two conditions, we'll call it a day." Hearing Zhang Chunren's answer, Yi Tianhua turned to look at Xue Zhijing and sighed, "Hall Master Xue, you heard it. Zhang Chunren wants me to agree to his conditions first. He wants to settle the matter of An Hongda and Du Wudai later. Do you think that's reasonable?" This time, without waiting for Xue Zhijing to speak, Zhang Chunren spoke first. "Hall Master Xue, if they had agreed to our conditions, how could we have injured An Hongda and Du Wudai? This is all their fault. They were the ones who acted shamelessly first, which was why we acted. You can't blame me for this. Tianhua sneered. Zhang Chunren, my two brothers were seriously injured by you. No matter what you say, it's the truth. If you don't resolve this matter, I won't let you off. Zhang Chunren shook his head. There's a sequence of events. It was you who harmed my son first, which led to today's date. But you didn't solve my problem, so I had to take action. Tianhua, if you had agreed to my conditions earlier, I wouldn't have attacked you. Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, that's not important. You hurt my brother, so you have to give me an answer today. Otherwise, we'll have a good fight today. Hearing this, LV Hushan, who had been silent all this time, suddenly roared, Tianhua, do you think the four of us will be afraid of you? You? Before LV Hushan could finish his words, Tianhua frowned and rushed out like lightning. The sword in his hand turned into a white light, slashing towards LV Hushan. Seeing this, Xue Zhijing wanted to stop him, but it was too late. He could only roar and rush forward with his sword. Stop! Although Xue Zhijing's speed was very fast, Tianhua's speed was even faster. Before LV Hushan could react, the sword light had already arrived and slashed his arm. This was also because Tianhua had shown mercy. If he had been ruthless, LV Hushan would have been killed by Tianhua in this round. After Tianhua stabbed LV Hushan with his sword, he felt a breeze behind him. He quickly dodged and retreated a few steps to avoid Xue Zhijing's attack. Tianhua, what do you mean by sneaking an attack on LV Hushan? What kind of hero are you? Xue Zhijing's sword missed, and seeing that LV Hushan was injured, he suddenly shouted angrily. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Tianhua sneered, Hall Master Xue, you guys sneaked an attack first and injured an Hongda and Du Wudai. I'm just copying you guys. Xue Zhijing was stunned. He remembered that it was just as Tianhua said. His side was the first to sneak an attack and injured an Hongda and Du Wudai. Tianhua's sneak attack seemed to be copying him. LV Hushan covered his injured arm and roared, Tianhua, you didn't agree to our conditions first. If you agreed, we wouldn't have attacked an Hongda and Du Wudai. Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, that's right. Your Shadow Alliance is in the wrong this time. You should compensate us, but you didn't agree, so we could only sneak an attack. Tianhua nodded. Since it's a sneak attack, then let's all sneak attacks. As Tianhua's voice fell, he moved again. A bright sword light flashed in front of everyone and pierced through the void, piercing LV Hushan's other arm. Seeing Tianhua's second sneak attack, Xue Zhijing was really angry. He stopped talking and roared, thrusting the long sword in his hand towards Tianhua's back. Tianhua's sword slightly flicked in front of him and slanted behind his back, blocking Xue Zhijing's sword. Xue Zhijing's sword missed, but he wasn't discouraged. He took a step forward and flicked his wrist. 3 sword flowers rose in front of him, pausing in the air for only a moment before flying towards Tianhua. Tianhua smiled and waved his sword in front of him, creating a light screen in front of him. Ding ding, a few crisp sounds of metal clashing rang out. Xue Zhijing's long sword was knocked back, but Tianhua didn't move at all. He sneered and said, Hall Master Xue, you're not my match. Let's not fight. Humph. Hearing Tianhua's words, Xue Zhijing snorted coldly and attacked immediately. His sword was like lightning and his steps were like thunder, rushing towards Tianhua. Seeing this, Tianhua sighed. As he sighed, he raised the sword in his hand again. With a slight flick, Xue Zhijing's sword was sent flying, and the attack was immediately disintegrated. Xue Zhijing was shocked. He quickly took a step back, but he didn't retract his sword. Instead, he slashed down in the air towards Tianhua. Seeing this, Tianhua dodged to the side. His hand shot out like lightning and pierced Xue Zhijing's arm just as it was about to rise. Ah! Xue Zhijing was in pain. He couldn't care less about attacking anymore. He quickly retracted his sword and retreated 5 or 6 steps back before stabilizing himself. He glared at Yi Tianhua angrily. Yi Tianhua, how dare you hurt me? Do you really want to start a war between the Shadow Alliance and the Secret Thunder Sect? Hearing this, Yi Tianhua hurriedly waved his hand and said apologetically, Hall Master Xue, I'm really sorry. I accidentally stabbed you just now. It wasn't intentional. Zhang Chunren suddenly shouted from the side, Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense over there. You stabbed our Hall Master Xue and we all saw it. You definitely didn't injure him by accident, you did it on purpose. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was enraged. He shouted, Zhang Chunren, it was an accident. How could it be intentional? Saying this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to reply, he turned to Xue Zhijing and said apologetically, Hall Master Xue, I really didn't do it on purpose just now. I was caught off guard and injured your arm. Zhang Chunren sneered, Yi Tianhua, what are you thinking? My son was killed by the snow leopard, and you said you didn't know about it and didn't do it on purpose. Now, you hurt our Hall Master Xue in front of so many of us, and you're saying you didn't do it on purpose. Don't you think it's funny? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was furious. Zhang Chunren, why do you always talk nonsense? I really didn't know about your son. I didn't even know about the snow leopard. How could I have done it intentionally? Just now, I accidentally stabbed Hall Master Xue. That was an accident. How could I have done it intentionally? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Xue Zhijing felt that Yi Tianhua's words made sense. In a duel, even if there were occasional mistakes, it was still very possible. Furthermore, he had been in a hurry just now. Even if Yi Tianhua's martial arts were higher than his, it was almost impossible for him to think of so many solutions in the instant he made his move. Understanding this, Xue Zhijing's anger subsided. Just as he was about to speak, Zhang Chunren suddenly yelled, Yi Tianhua, you said it was an accident. Is it really an accident? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to reply, he continued. Earlier, when Hall Master Xue attacked you with his sword, anyone could tell that it was merely a feint. His purpose was merely to force you to retreat. However, you clearly knew that it was a feint. Thus, you took advantage of that and attacked Hall Master Xue with your all-out attack when he was completely unguarded. That was how you managed to injure him. Yi Tianhua, you did it intentionally. Could it still be considered an accidental injury? Yi Tianhua laughed coldly. Zhang Chunren, you really know how to spout nonsense. What right do you have to say that Hall Master Xue's attack was a feint? And what right do you have to say that I saw through Hall Master Xue's attack and used it to injure him? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren roared, Yi Tianhua, don't try to quibble. Even we could see that Hall Master Xue's attack was a feint. Your martial arts are higher than ours. Do you think we would believe that you couldn't see that it was a feint? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned. He really could see that Xue Zhijing's attack was a feint. When the two of them were fighting, Yi Tianhua's first attack had broken Xue Zhijing's attack. However, Xue Zhijing's momentum was not over yet. It was impossible for him to retreat quickly. Xue Zhijing was afraid that Yi Tianhua would take the opportunity to attack him, so he attacked at a slanted angle with his sword. His goal was to attack Yi Tianhua in a large area and force him to retreat. Then, he would stabilize himself and retreat as well. Logically speaking, Xue Zhijing's attack was a proper way to fight. Yi Tianhua should have retreated to avoid the sharp edge of Xue Zhijing's sword. However, Yi Tianhua was bold and didn't take Xue Zhijing seriously, so he didn't retreat. Instead, he chose to attack. Yi Tianhua naturally could see that Xue Zhijing's attack was a feint, but he still didn't move, because he thought that Xue Zhijing would dodge his attack. As long as Xue Zhijing dodged, both of them would be fine. However, Xue Zhijing didn't dodge. Maybe Xue Zhijing couldn't dodge, or maybe Xue Zhijing didn't want to. Anyway, Xue Zhijing was stabbed by this ordinary attack. Seeing that Yi Tianhua didn't speak, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, now you have nothing to say. Yi Tianhua said angrily, Why do I have nothing to say? That was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't you understand? Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, if you dare to do it, then you have to admit it. Since you dared to stab our hall master Xue, why don't you admit it? Yuan Weiqing suddenly laughed and said, Yi Tianhua is the kind of person who doesn't dare to admit it. What happened to Vice Hall Master Zhang's son was deliberately done by him. He hid the news of the snow leopard and wanted to harm our secret thunder sect. He dared to do it, but he doesn't dare to admit it. He's not a man. Yi Tianhua sneered. Yuan Weiqing, are you done? Yuan Weiqing was stunned when he heard this. Seeing the coldness in Yi Tianhua's eyes, he was shocked. He quickly took a step back and said loudly, Yi Tianhua, what do you want? Since you did something wrong, can't others say it? Zhang Chunren also said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, you're right. Since you did it, why don't you allow others to say it? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yi Tianhua's reply. He sneered and continued to speak. I know. So you're afraid of others saying it because you did something shameful. Yi Tianhua, am I right? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was instantly enraged. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and shouted, Zhang Chunren, I saw that you lost your only son and he didn't want to argue with you. Now that you're so aggressive, do you think I won't dare to touch you? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was shocked and took a step back subconsciously. He turned to Xue Zhijing and said loudly, Hall Master Xue, Yi Tianhua wants to fight? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhijing was furious. He turned to Yi Tianhua and shouted, Yi Tianhua, don't push your luck. Do you think we're no match for you just because you hurt me? Xue Zhijing paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yi Tianhua's reply and continued to speak. Yi Tianhua, to tell you the truth, don't think we can't do anything to you just because you're strong. Don't forget that we're from the secret thunder sect. If you really piss us off, we won't let you off. Yi Tianhua, do you really want to try? Chapter 674. Yi Tianhua was shocked when he heard Xue Zhijing's words. He then remembered that Xue Zhijing was the hall master of the Tantric Thunder Sect. What did the Tantric Thunder Sect do? They produced firearms. Yi Tianhua's expression changed when he thought of those powerful firearms. Seeing this, Zhang Chunren shouted, Yi Tianhua, are you afraid? If you are, then hurry up and agree to my conditions. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, why do you have to do this? I know you're upset about losing your only son, but I don't know about this. I just want to go back and investigate to see what happened. Then, I'll give you an answer. Can't I do that? Zhang Chunren shook his head after hearing Yi Tianhua's words. Yi Tianhua, I don't trust you at all. I suspect that you're just trying to take the opportunity to slip away and not care about this anymore. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, why don't you trust me? If it were you, would you agree on the spot? Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing without waiting for Zhang Chunren's answer. Zhang Chunren, you won't agree either. If this is fake, then I've been fooled by you. Therefore, I have to investigate this thoroughly. Zhang Chunren was furious when he heard this. Isn't this clear enough? Unless you can tell me that the snow leopards can move around and don't have their own territory. If that's the case, then I won't hold you responsible. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing, however, the snow leopards have their own territory and don't move around. Therefore, the flaming stone is in the snow leopard's territory. Isn't this clear enough? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I admit that what you said makes sense. It's impossible for the snow leopards to move around. However, why didn't I know about this? Do you think this is normal? Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, without waiting for Zhang Chunren's answer. Zhang Chunren, every piece of information from the Shadow Alliance has to be investigated thoroughly in order to ensure its authenticity. Otherwise, the Shadow Alliance wouldn't have been in business for so many years without any problems. Zhang Chunren, I've always been suspicious about this matter. What's the reason why I didn't know about the snow leopard's existence? Therefore, I have to investigate this matter thoroughly. This matter is very important. It concerns the reputation of the Shadow Alliance. I have to treat it seriously. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Tianhua, I don't care how many reasons you give me. You're wrong. You have to be responsible. Tianhua shook his head. Eltis, right or wrong? There must be a reason we don't know the reason. We have to find a way to find a solution to this problem. If I agree to your conditions now, what if something happens on your side? Wouldn't it be too late for me to regret it? That's why I have to investigate thoroughly. After hearing Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly said loudly, Tianhua, don't talk nonsense. We're the ones who got hurt. How could there be a problem on our side? It's clearly your fault. I didn't expect you to blame it on us. I think you don't want to get involved in this matter. That's why you found so many excuses to defend yourself. Tianhua turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked coldly, Yuan Weiqing, do you really think that we made a mistake? Yuan Weiqing coldly snorted. How could it be fake? In addition to Zhang Huoxing, we also lost 2 senior craftsmen. Do you know how big our losses are? Our secret Thunder School doesn't have many senior craftsmen to begin with, and now we've lost 2 of them. Tianhua, I think you deliberately did this to harm our secret Thunder School. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua was furious. He wanted to teach Yuan Weiqing a lesson again. However, when he thought that Yuan Weiqing was a member of the Tanlei sect, he was a little afraid. Yuan Weiqing, we'll naturally give you a satisfactory answer after we investigate this matter. Speaking of this, Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. Now let's talk about An Hongda and Du Wudai. The 2 of them were seriously injured by you. How are you going to compensate us? Yuan Weiqing snorted coldly. If your Shadow Alliance hadn't gone back on your words and harmed so many of our people, how could this have happened? Tianhua, if you hadn't agreed to our conditions, we wouldn't have attacked An Hongda and Du Wudai. Tianhua, since you've agreed to our conditions, we'll naturally agree to your conditions. If you don't agree to our conditions and just want us to agree to your conditions, I can only tell you that you're dreaming. It's impossible. Zhang Chunren also sneered. That's right. As long as you agree to our conditions, An Hongda and Du Wudai's matter will naturally be negotiable. However, if you don't agree to our conditions, don't expect us to agree to An Hongda and Du Wudai's matter. After hearing the 2's words, Tianhua let out a long breath and calmed his anger. Then he slowly said, Zhang Chunren, I've said it many times. I suspect there's another reason for the snow leopard's matter. So please let me find out the reason, and then I'll give you an answer. But why do you want me to give you an answer now? This is clearly unreasonable. How can I answer you? At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. However, An Hongda and Du Wudai's matter is obvious. They were attacked by you and that's why they were injured. No matter what you say, there's nothing you can do to change this. You must compensate me. Otherwise, I won't agree. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren shouted sternly, Tianhua, your matter is obvious. You have to investigate my matter. What do you mean? Do you suspect that my son Zhang Huoxing's matter is fake? Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, and the 2 senior craftsmen of our Tantric Thunder sect. Are they fake as well? Tianhua, you must give us an explanation today. Otherwise, I won't let you go. Yi Tianhua heard this and sighed. You keep saying that Zhang Huasheng's matter is obvious. Then let me ask you, did I see the snow leopard? Did I see the snow leopard attacking Zhang Huasheng? Also, was there a snow leopard next to the flaming stone? How would I know if all of this is true? If all of this is fake, then you're deliberately trying to deceive me. What should I do? Therefore, I won't agree to your conditions now. Only after I find out the truth and prove that Zhang Huasheng and the 2 craftsmen were killed by the snow leopard next to the flaming stone will I agree to your conditions. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chuanren's eyes turned cold and he shouted sternly, Yi Tianhua, you dare to doubt me? Then let me ask you, are you willing to let your son be killed by the snow leopard? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, this isn't the same thing. If my son went to look for the flaming stone, the first thing he would pay attention to would be his safety. Without a guarantee of safety, I won't let my son take the risk. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, you make it sound so nice. Have you forgotten who you are? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer, he continued. Yi Tianhua, you're a member of the Shadow Alliance. The Shadow Alliance mainly relies on selling information. Since you rely on selling information, then your information must be true. When you sold the information about the flaming stone to us, if there was a snow leopard nearby, you would definitely sell this information to us. This is because as long as you tell us this information, we'll definitely pay for it. It's for this reason that I trust the Shadow Alliance. Since you didn't tell us about the snow leopard, I naturally didn't inquire about it. Since there's no danger on Green Peak Mountain, why would we send a large number of experts to protect them? Although we have many experts in the Tantric Thunder sect, it's not infinite. They have a lot of things to do. Why would they waste their time on Green Peak Mountain, where there's no danger? However, the Shadow Alliance betrayed my trust in you. You knew that the snow leopard was on Green Peak Mountain, and that the flaming stone was in its territory, but you didn't tell us. You allowed us to lose so many people. Besides my son, there were also 2 of the most important craftsmen in the Tantric Thunder sect. Yi Tianhua, tell me, why did you do this? You knew that the snow leopard was on Green Peak Mountain, but you didn't tell us. What were you thinking? What was your purpose? Can you tell me? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, I deeply sympathize with your situation. However, I still have to say the same thing. I don't know what's going on, so I'll have to investigate thoroughly before I can give you an answer. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, don't lie to me. The problem must be in the Shadow Alliance. Even if you go back to investigate and find the person who lied to you, won't you care? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yi Tianhua hurriedly shook his head. Zhang Chunren, how can I not care? As long as I find out the truth, and it's really like what you said, that someone deliberately concealed the snow leopard from me, I'll definitely punish him severely and give you a satisfactory answer. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, that means after you find the person who lied to you, you'll have to negotiate with me, right? Yi Tianhua nodded. Of course. If I find the person who lied to me, I'll definitely make him bear the consequences and compensate you for your loss. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren nodded again. Yi Tianhua, when the time comes, will you agree to my conditions? Yi Tianhua stared blankly for a moment before shaking his head. Zhang Chunren, I can agree to the first condition, 500,000 gold coins. However, I still can't agree to the second condition. 5 years of free information is too long. I won't agree to it. Zhang Chunren shook his head. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. Yi Tianhua, since you say 5 years is too long, then tell me, how long will it take for you to agree to it? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's question, Yi Tianhua hesitated for a moment before he raised a finger and said slowly, at most 1 year. Even if the Shadow Alliance was wrong and someone lied to me and didn't tell me about the snow leopard, I can only promise you 1 year of free information. If it's more than that, I won't agree to it no matter what. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, before Zhang Chunren could say anything, Yuan Weiqing suddenly said loudly, "Yi Tianhua, you're too cunning. We've lost so much. Do you think that just 1 year of free information is enough to compensate us?" At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing without waiting for Yi Tianhua's reply. "Yi Tianhua, do you know that our Vice Hall Master Zhang only had 1 son? Now, his only son was killed by the snow leopard because of you. Also, our Tanlei sect has 2 senior craftsmen. Do you think they're not important? You should know how difficult it is to train a senior craftsman. It's even more difficult than practicing martial arts. Our secret Thunder sect has to select the most talented people from countless people, and we have to pay a huge price to cultivate a senior craftsman. However, because of you, we've lost 2 senior craftsmen. Do you know what this means for our Tanlei sect? Our strength will weaken by a lot. Each of our craftsmen has their own specialty. After losing these 2 senior craftsmen, our Tanlei sect's firearms will decrease by a lot. This is because some firearms are unique to our craftsmen. Others can't make them. Yi Tianhua, you've caused such a huge loss to our Tanlei sect. Do you think that 500,000 gold coins and 1 year of free information will be enough to exchange for our 2 senior craftsmen and Vice Hall Master Zhang's only son?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua sighed inwardly. Although he didn't know the manufacturing process of the Tanlei sect, he knew that every craftsman, especially senior craftsman, was very rare. Just like Yuan Weiqing said, every craftsman knew different things. After losing these 2 senior craftsmen, there would definitely be some things that couldn't be made anymore. This was the greatest loss for the Tanlei sect. Yi Tianhua also understood Zhang Chunren's anger a little. Chapter 675. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, I know that your Tan Thunder sect has suffered heavy losses, but I didn't know about this matter. As for the reason behind it, we don't dare to make a judgment." Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer, he continued. "Yuan Weiqing, it's not that I don't want to compensate you, but this matter is too strange. I need to find out what's going on before I can give you a satisfactory answer. Yuan Weiqing, believe me, if the Shadow Alliance is really wrong, I will find the reason and compensate you." After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered a few times to express his disdain. "Yi Tianhua, you still dare to quibble. Whether you know about this matter or not, it's the Shadow Alliance's fault. You have to solve it today. Otherwise, do you think our Tan Thunder sect will let you off easily after suffering such heavy losses?" Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer, he continued. "Yi Tianhua, stop dreaming. Even if you escape today, do you think our Tan Thunder sect will let you go after suffering such heavy losses? So, even if you go to the ends of the earth, our Tan Thunder sect will not let you go. Yi Tianhua, if you know what's good for you, you'll solve the problem today. If you don't, then we can only talk with our fists." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua couldn't help but frown. "Yuan Weiqing, don't you think this matter is strange?" Yuan Weiqing sneered. "What's strange about it? Your Shadow Alliance deliberately wanted to harm us, so you didn't tell us about the snow leopard and caused our Tan Thunder sect to suffer heavy losses. Is there anything strange about this?" Yi Tianhua shook his head. "Yuan Weiqing, then let me ask you, why would I want to harm you? What good would it do me?" After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly said loudly, "Yi Tianhua, of course you'll benefit from harming us. As long as you kill all of our senior craftsmen step by step, you'll be able to easily defeat us. Isn't that a benefit? Yi Tianhua shook his head with a bitter smile. Zhang Chunren, what good will it do us if we defeat you? We mainly rely on selling information, while you mainly rely on selling firearms. What good will it do me if I destroy you? Zhang Chunren sneered. Of course there are many benefits. As long as you defeat us, you can make our secret Thunder sect submit. At that time, you can sell information and firearms. Won't you be rolling in money? There are many benefits. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yi Tianhua's reply and continued to speak. Yi Tianhua, don't tell me you've never thought about it. Although your Shadow Alliance mainly relies on selling information, your income is far less than our secret Thunder sects. I think this might be one of the reasons why you're trying to harm us. The firearms produced by our secret Thunder sect are very powerful, so their profits are naturally quite high. You must have seen this point, so you want to attack us. As soon as Zhang Chunren's voice fell, Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, Yes, Vice Hall Master Zhang is right. The reason why you're attacking our secret Thunder sect is because of this. You see that our secret Thunder sect's firearms are very profitable, so you want to defeat us and take them for your own. Yi Tianhua, this is your purpose. You want to harm our secret Thunder sect. There's no mistake about it. Hearing the two's words, Xue Zhizhing's eyes narrowed. He suddenly realized that Yi Tianhua really had a reason to harm the secret Thunder sect. As the hall master of the secret Thunder sect, he naturally knew how profitable the firearms were. In front of such a huge profit, Xue Zhizhing really couldn't guarantee that Yi Tianhua wouldn't be tempted. If Yi Tianhua was tempted, he would set up this plan to weaken the strength of the secret Thunder sect step by step. When the strength of the secret Thunder sect was weakened to a certain extent, they would attack and defeat the secret Thunder sect. At that time, the secret Thunder sect would have no other choice but to surrender. Thinking of this, Xue Zhizhing turned to look at Yi Tianhua and asked coldly, Yi Tianhua, now that things have come to this, what else do you have to say? Yuan Weiqing also shouted, Yi Tianhua, our hall master has seen through your trick. If you're still a man, quickly admit it, so that we won't look down on you. After hearing everyone's words, Yi Tianhua couldn't help but frown. He turned to look at Xue Zhizhing and sighed, Hall Master Xue, if I wanted to do this, how could you see through it? What's more, even if I did as you said, would your secret Thunder sect surrender? At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Xue Zhizhing to answer him, he continued. Hall Master Xue, I'm afraid it's not that easy. Your secret Thunder sect is only a branch of the secret Thunder sect. Even if we defeat your secret Thunder sect, will your secret Thunder sect surrender? At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, if your secret Thunder sect really surrenders, will the headquarters of the secret Thunder sect know? If the headquarters of the secret Thunder sect knows, will they just stand by and do nothing? That's impossible. The secret Thunder sect is very powerful. Once they know that someone is going against the secret Thunder sect of the South County, they will definitely not let us off easily. At that time, can the Shadow Alliance of the South County fight against the huge secret Thunder sect? At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment and smiled bitterly. However, he didn't wait for Xue Zhizhing to answer him and continued. Hall Master Xue, I don't think you need to know that the Shadow Alliance of the South County can't fight against the huge secret Thunder sect. If the two sides really fight, I'm sure that the secret Thunder sect can easily defeat the Shadow Alliance of the South County. If that's the case, why would I ask for trouble and provoke the secret Thunder sect of the South County? There are so many small sects that I don't provoke, but I have to provoke the huge secret Thunder sect. Hall Master Xue, if it's just for some profits, do you think I would do such a stupid thing? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Xue Zhizhing could not help but frown. He suddenly realized that Yi Tianhua's words made sense. If Yi Tianhua was really the one who had set up the Tantra sect and wanted to wipe them out, then the Tantra sect would be destroyed. By doing this, although Tianhua could obtain the profits of the Secret Thunder sect, he would have to face the attack of the headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect. The headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect was very powerful. It was definitely not something that the Shadow Alliance of the South County could compare to. Since Tianhua knew that the Shadow Alliance of the South County could not defeat the headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect, then wouldn't he be causing trouble for himself by doing this? He might even be killed by the headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect. Xue Zhizheng believed that Tianhua would definitely see through this. Could it be that this matter was really not part of Tianhua's plan? At this moment, Zhang Chunren suddenly said loudly, Tianhua, you need to use flowery words to deceive our hall master Xue. Let me tell you, we won't believe you. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua sneered. Zhang Chunren, then tell me, if I really set up the Secret Thunder sect of the South County, even if you surrender, how should I deal with the revenge of the headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect? Hearing Tianhua's words, Xue Zhizheng hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren, wanting to hear his explanation. Zhang Chunren clapped his hands. Tianhua, that's a good plan. You might be able to fool a lot of people, but you won't be able to fool me. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment and sneered. However, he did not wait for Tianhua to answer him and continued. Tianhua, in fact, if you want to get the profits of the Secret Thunder sect of the South County, you don't have to make them surrender. You just need to make them surrender. At that time, the Shadow Alliance will be the Shadow Alliance, and the Secret Thunder sect will be the Secret Thunder sect. The two sides will not contact each other, but in fact, you will control the Secret Thunder sect of the South County. As long as you control the Secret Thunder sect of the South County, the profits of the Secret Thunder sect of the South County will be your profits. Tianhua, if you do this, are you worried that the headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect will pursue you? Haha, no one will know. Only a few people know that you control the Secret Thunder sect of the South County. How will the headquarters of the Secret Thunder sect know? Tianhua, am I right? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng could not help but frown. If what Zhang Chunren said was true, then he, the hall master of the Secret Thunder sect of the South County, would be the first to bear the brunt of Tianhua's target. Or, if Tianhua controlled him, it would be equivalent to controlling the Secret Thunder sect of the South County. Thinking of this, Xue Zhizheng's expression could not help but change. If it was as Yuan Weiqing said, Tianhua would set up the Secret Thunder sect of the South County and weaken their strength. At a certain time, Tianhua would launch a general attack. At that time, the weakened Secret Thunder sect of the South County would definitely not be a match for the Shadow Alliance. At that time, what should he do? Resist? What could he use to resist? The Secret Thunder sect's greatest reliance was the powerful firearms set up by the high-level craftsmen. Without these things, what could they use to resist the attack of the Shadow Alliance? If Tianhua really thought so, then Tianhua's chances of success were very high. Now, the Secret Thunder sect of the South County had already lost 2 craftsmen. There were only 8 craftsmen left. If Tianhua used a few more strategies, then none of the 8 high-level craftsmen would be left. At that time, without these high-level craftsmen to produce firearms, the Secret Thunder sect of the South County would be in vain. Thinking of this, Xue Zhizheng's forehead finally broke out in cold sweat. Even if he was injured just now, he could only grit his teeth and endure it. However, after understanding all of this, he was really a little shocked. If what Zhang Chunren said was true, then the Secret Thunder sect of the South County was in extreme danger now. Tianhua saw the changing expression on Xue Zhizheng's face and was shocked. He asked quickly, Hall Master Xue, you don't believe that I would really do such a thing, right? After hearing Tianhua's question, Xue Zhizheng woke up from his deep thought. He raised his head and looked at Tianhua in front of him. He suddenly sneered. Tianhua, What else do you have to explain now? At this point, Xue Zhizheng paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Yi Tianhua to answer him and continued. Vice Hall Master Zhang has already said your plan. Do you think that Vice Hall Master Zhang is wrong? Yi Tianhua, I originally thought that the loss of our 2 senior craftsmen was really an accident. I never expected that this was actually a trap set up by you. Yi Tianhua, you're so ruthless. What enmity does our secret Thunder sect of the South County have with you for you to plot against us? Yi Tianhua, I really misjudged you. I thought you were a gentleman, but I didn't expect that you're just a villain. You're just a villain who schemed against our secret Thunder sect of the South County. Yi Tianhua, if we don't make things clear today, none of us will leave today. Looking at the flustered and exasperated Xue Zhizheng, Yi Tianhua sighed in his heart. He knew that Xue Zhizheng had already believed Zhang Chuanren's words. However, even if Xue Zhizheng had already believed Zhang Chuanren's words, so what? He didn't do that. He didn't even know about the snow leopard. This was a mystery. Thinking of this, Yi Tianhua suddenly felt a chill in his heart. If this was really a trap, then who was the one who set this trap? Xue Zhizheng? He was the hall master of the secret Thunder sect of the South County. What good would it do him to set this trap? Yi Tianhua's brows furrowed tighter and tighter. He kept guessing in his heart. Who did this? Zhang Chunren? But it didn't seem like it. Yi Tianhua believed that no matter who it was, they wouldn't use their son to set up a trap to frame others. This was because even if they succeeded, their son would be lost. Moreover, Zhang Chunren only had one son. If he lost this son, he would never have another son. Therefore, Yi Tianhua guessed that this trap was not set up by Zhang Chunren. If it was really set up by him, then the loss would be too great. Who else could have set this trap? Right, the news he received only told him about the flaming stone, but he didn't know about the snow leopard. Could it be that there were bad people among his subordinates? If it was done by his subordinates, then they must know that only the secret Thunder sect of the South County needed the flaming stone. Moreover, they also knew that the flaming stone was in the snow leopard's territory. As long as the secret Thunder sect of the South County sent people to look for the flaming stone, they would definitely encounter the snow leopard. If it was really done by his subordinates, it seemed that this matter could also be done. However, why? Why would they do this? Yi Tianhua believed that he treated his subordinates well. He never believed that anyone would betray him. Although there was a lot of mystery now, Yi Tianhua still couldn't believe that these things were really done by his subordinates. Then, if it wasn't done by his subordinates, who could it be? Chapter 676. Seeing that Yi Tianhua didn't answer for a long time, Zhang Chunren said angrily, Yi Tianhua, don't you admit it? All of this is your plan. Your goal is to weaken the strength of the secret Thunder sect in the South County and then attack us. Yi Tianhua, since you've already done something wrong, why don't you know how to repent? Yi Tianhua raised his head and looked at Zhang Chunren, who was shouting. He laughed bitterly. Zhang Chunren, I admit that what you said makes sense. However, I still stand by my words. I really didn't know that there was a snow leopard on Green Tower Mountain. I really didn't know. Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to reply, he laughed coldly and continued. So, I have to investigate this matter thoroughly and find out who did it. If I find out who did it, Clap, clap. Just as Yi Tianhua finished speaking, Yuan Weiqing clapped his hands. Yi Tianhua, you're so good at acting. At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused, and he suddenly sneered. But you don't have to pretend anymore. We already know about your plan. There's no point in pretending anymore. You should think about how to make it up to us. Yi Tianhua shook his head. I haven't investigated this matter thoroughly, so I can't give you an answer. However, I can promise you that once I find out the truth, I'll make it up to you. Yuan Weiqing sneered when he heard this. Yi Tianhua, Do you want to think of a way to compensate us after destroying the Tantris sect in the South County? Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yi Tianhua's reply and continued to roar angrily. Yi Tianhua, don't even think about it. You have to settle this matter today. Otherwise, we won't let you leave. Yi Tianhua gritted his teeth and laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, do you think that you can stop me if I want to leave? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed coldly. Yi Tianhua, don't think that we can't stop you just because you're strong. Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing. Yi Tianhua, with Hall Master Shui here today, it won't be that easy for you to leave. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua turned to Shui Zhijing and laughed bitterly. Hall Master Shui, don't you believe me? Shui Zhijing laughed coldly. Yi Tianhua, why should I believe you? Why should I believe you? Zhang Chunren is to say that you're wrong? You've been plotting against South County's Tanlei sect for a long time. Do you think I'll let you go? Yi Tianhua, if you know you're wrong, then surrender immediately. Considering the good relationship between our two sects, I can still spare your life. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Hall Master Shui, do you really think I'll do that? Before Shui Zhijing could speak, Zhang Chunren shouted. Yi Tianhua, you still want to deny it? The evidence is conclusive. You have no other choice but to surrender. Shui Zhijing nodded. Yi Tianhua, you should surrender. No matter how strong you are, you're no match for the four of us. If we really fight, we'll hurt each other. If we accidentally hurt you, it'll be too late for regret. After hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Hall Master Shui, since things have come to this, I can only take my leave first. Once I've investigated this matter, I'll come back and tell you all about it. Haha, as soon as Yi Tianhua finished speaking, Zhang Chunren laughed. Yi Tianhua, do you think you can leave just like that? Stop dreaming. Hearing this, Yi Tianhua slowly turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and asked word by word, Zhang Chunren, do you want to stop me? Hearing Yi Tianhua's question, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, I know your martial arts are strong. Even if we want to stop you, I'm afraid we can't. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer, he turned around and pointed at an Hongda and Du Wudai not far away. Yi Tianhua, you can leave, but you don't even care about them? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was shocked. He frowned and thought for a moment, then sighed. Zhang Chunren, after I leave, I hope you won't hurt them. When I come back, I'll be grateful. As soon as Yi Tianhua finished speaking, Yuan Weiqing suddenly laughed. Yi Tianhua, are you dreaming? You're our enemy. You schemed to frame our South County's Tanlei sect. Now you want to escape regardless of anything. Do you think we'll be polite to people like you? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned around and pointed at an Hongda and Du Wudai. He sneered and said, Yi Tianhua, if you dare to leave now, we'll kill them immediately. None of them will be left alive, so as to avoid future troubles. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua was so shocked that his face changed. He said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, you're so ruthless. What grudge do you have with them? How dare you do this to them? Yuan Weiqing sneered and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, don't you know what grudge we have? You want to frame our South County's Tanlei sect. Isn't that a grudge? Now you've already harmed Vice Hall Master Zhang's only son, Zhang Huixing, and 2 senior craftsmen of our South County's Tanlei sect. If we let you continue to develop, sooner or later, our South County's Tanlei sect will be destroyed by your Shadow Alliance. Yi Tianhua, isn't such a grudge enough? Do you have to destroy our South County's Tanlei sect to have a grudge? Zhang Chunren also shouted from the side, Yi Tianhua, wake up. Don't harm others and yourself. Don't be ashamed of yourself. Yi Tianhua sighed as he listened to the two shouting madly. Now, do you all think that I'm the one who did it? Xue Zhijing sighed. Tianhua, you're the most powerful person in the Shadow Alliance. Do you think the Shadow Alliance would dare to do this without your consent? Tianhua, I really didn't expect you to be such a person. For your own benefit, you didn't hesitate to destroy our South County's Tanlei sect. I really misjudged you. Seeing Xue Zhijing's pained expression, Tianhua was angry. This matter clearly had nothing to do with him, but these people insisted that he did it. This was simply too infuriating. Hall Master Xue, I don't care if you believe me or not. This matter has nothing to do with me. I definitely didn't know that there was a snow leopard on Qingling Mountain. At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Xue Zhijing to answer him. Hall Master Xue, let's all take a step back now. Let me go back and investigate what's going on. Then, I'll definitely give you an answer. Hall Master Xue, what do you think? This time, before Xue Zhijing could answer, Yuan Weiqing had already shouted first. Tianhua, even now, you still don't know how to repent. You actually want to slip away? Zhang Chunren sneered and said, Tianhua, I originally didn't believe that you were such a person, but seeing your attitude today, I really believe that you must have done this. Otherwise, why wouldn't you be willing to solve the problem and instead want to slip away? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua said angrily, Zhang Chunren, why would I slip away? If I did this, then why would I participate in your date? Wouldn't it be better if I didn't come? You can't find me. Wouldn't I be safer this way? After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, you've finally said your true thoughts. You want to slip away now and hide so that we can't find you. You want to hide this matter, right? Tianhua said angrily. No, why would I hide this matter? Such a big thing happened, do you think I can hide it? Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, why not? Tianhua, all you need to do is slip away and find a place where there is no one. As long as you hide for a day or so, this matter will be over. All you need to do is hide. After hearing the two's words, Tianhua gritted his teeth and said angrily, no matter what, before this matter is investigated clearly, I won't agree to your conditions. At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, unless you agree to the first condition, I'll pay you 500,000 gold coins. As for the second condition, don't even think about it. It's impossible. I won't agree to the condition of giving you free information for 5 years. Zhang Chunren said angrily, Tianhua, my son was killed by the snow leopard just like that, and you're not going to do anything? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, when did I say that I'm not going to do anything? I just said that I'll go back and investigate clearly, and then give you a satisfactory answer. I didn't say that I'm not going to do anything about this matter. Please don't misunderstand. Zhang Chunren snorted coldly. Tianhua, don't lie to us. Now that things have come to this, do you think you can still lie to us? You keep saying that you want to solve the problem, but your real intention is to find a way to slip away and find a place where there is no one to hide, right? As soon as Zhang Chunren finished speaking, Yuan Weiqing also shouted, no, not only does Tianhua want to slip away, I'm afraid he doesn't want to hide. He wants to continue to frame our Tanlei sect in the South County and destroy our Tanlei sect. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and turned to look at Tianhua. He said angrily, Tianhua, it seems that we can't let you go today. If we let you slip away, I'm afraid there will be endless trouble in the future. Our Tanlei sect in the South County will never have a peaceful time. After hearing everyone's words, Tianhua smiled bitterly in his heart. He had never expected that things would develop to this point. He originally thought that it had nothing to do with him, but now it had become irrefutable evidence that he was the one who did it. Not only that, it could even be said that he had an even more sinister purpose, which was to destroy the Tanlei sect in the South County. Tianhua did not have such thoughts. It could even be said that he had never thought of destroying the Tanlei sect in the South County. He only hoped that everyone would be peaceful and did not want anyone to fight. However, a fight had come knocking on his door. Seeing that Tianhua did not answer, Zhang Chunren said angrily, Tianhua, do you agree to my condition or not? If you don't agree, we won't be polite anymore. Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, I can't agree to this because I haven't figured out the reason why I didn't know that there was a snow leopard on Qingling Mountain. Since I don't know the truth, how do you want me to solve this matter? Zhang Chunren shook his head. I don't care what the reason is in the Shadow Alliance. My son was killed by the snow leopard because of you. This is the truth. The 2 high-level craftsmen of the Tanlei sect in the South County were also killed by the snow leopard because of your unspeakable motive. Tianhua, no matter what you say now, I won't believe you anymore. I just want to know, how do you want to solve my son's matter? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, it's not that I don't want to solve your problem, but I don't know what happened. How should I solve your problem? Zhang Chunren said angrily. Then tell me, is this because of the Shadow Alliance in the South County? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua was stunned for a moment before he slowly shook his head. I don't know what happened. How can I be sure that this is not because of the Shadow Alliance in the South County? After hearing Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, are you saying that this matter is not because of the Shadow Alliance? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I have no idea how this matter happened, so I can't answer your question. Zhang Chunren said angrily. Tianhua, is there anything wrong with this? This is clearly a scheme set up by the Shadow Alliance to frame the Tanlei sect in the South County. Why don't you dare to admit it? Tianhua shook his head again. Zhang Chunren, if we really did this, then I will definitely admit it. But we didn't do this, so how can I admit it? After hearing Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren was furious. Tianhua, you still dare to deny it? Do you think we're all fools? How can we not see such an obvious thing? Yuan Weiqing snorted coldly. Tianhua, we're not fools. We've already seen through everything you've done. Now we just want to see if you'll compensate us. If you don't care about this matter, then don't blame us for being rude. After hearing their words, Tianhua shook his head. I've already said it. It's not that I don't want to admit it, but we didn't do it. How can I admit it? Chapter 677. After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was instantly enraged. Tianhua, what do you want? Now that the evidence is conclusive, you're still trying to deny it. Do you think that we can't do anything to you? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I'm not trying to deny it, but this matter is too strange. I really can't figure out where the problem lies. Zhang Chunren laughed coldly. Tianhua, now that things have come to this, you still dare to say where the problem lies? Do you think that we're easy to bully? Is that why you're trying to deny it? Yuan Weiqing also said loudly from the side. Tianhua, do you really think that we can't do anything to you? Let me tell you, you're dreaming. If we want to deal with you, with just you alone, it's absolutely impossible for you to be a match for the 4 of us. I advise you to honestly agree to our conditions, otherwise, An Hongda and Du Wudai will end up like you. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua frowned and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, do you really think that the few of you are a match for me? After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren said angrily, Tianhua, don't tell me that you don't want to agree to our conditions just because you're strong? Let me tell you, no matter how strong your martial arts are, you definitely won't be a match for the 4 of us. Tianhua, as long as you agree to our conditions, we'll let you go. Otherwise, if we attack you, it'll be too late for you to regret it. Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, although you're not a match for me, I don't want to fight with you. After all, your son was killed by the snow leopard. I don't want to bully you anymore. As long as you let us go today, I can guarantee that I'll investigate this matter as soon as possible. When the time comes, no matter who did this, I won't let them go." Yuan Weiqing sneered. Tianhua, do you really think that you can fool us with your lies? Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but before Tianhua could reply, he snorted coldly and continued to speak. Tianhua, let me tell you, we've already seen through your plan. Now, no matter what you say, you can't fool us. I advise you to agree to our conditions. Otherwise, it'll be too late for you to regret it when we really make a move. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren also said loudly, Tianhua, do you really want us to do it? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but before Tianhua could reply, he snorted coldly and continued speaking. Tianhua, if we make a move, it won't just be a matter of the few of us. I'm afraid it will involve the battle between the South County Shadow Alliance and the South County Tanlei sect. At that time, can you bear this responsibility? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua smiled bitterly. Zhang Chunren, I also know that it's very likely to cause a battle between our two sections. It's because of this reason that I came to your date to clarify this matter. However, don't you think this matter is very strange? There's a snow leopard on Green Tower Mountain. Is the problem with you guys or the Shadow Alliance? Who can guarantee where the problem is? Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. Zhang Chunren, if the problem is with the South County Shadow Alliance, I can guarantee that I'll give you a satisfactory answer. However, if the problem is with the South County Tanlei sect, don't blame me for being heartless. Not only will I not compensate you, but I'll also hold you responsible. After all, this matter is very bad for our reputation. You need to compensate us. Zhang Chunren, do you understand? I hope you can go back and investigate as soon as possible. If you're used by others and the news gets out, it won't be good for either of our sections. After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was so angry that his eyes widened. Even his breathing became hurried. He pointed at Tianhua and panted for a while before shouting sternly. Tianhua, I really didn't expect you to be such a person. Not only did you distort the truth, but you're also talking nonsense. It's clearly a matter of the South County Shadow Alliance, but you're saying that it's a matter of the South County Tanlei sect. You can even make up such a thing. Tianhua, I really can't think of anything that you can't say. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, none of us can guarantee which side this matter happened. At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, Zhang Chunren, although you said that there was a problem on our side, let me ask you, where is the problem? Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, stop pretending. This is obviously your plan. Why are you asking me about it? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I can guarantee that this matter has absolutely nothing to do with me. I have no idea how this matter happened, let alone frame you. Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, do you think we'll fall for your trick just because you said that? Let me tell you, you're dreaming. You've deliberately set up this trap to frame our Tanlei sect in the South County. However, you've succeeded. At least in the Qingling Mountain incident, my son wasn't the only one killed by snow leopard. 2 senior craftsmen of our Tanlei sect in the South County were killed as well. There are very few senior craftsmen. You've framed 2 of our senior craftsmen at once. Speaking of which, your operation this time can be considered a success. Tianhua, should I congratulate you? Hearing this, Tianhua shook his head with a bitter smile. Zhang Chunren, the 2 senior craftsmen of your Tanlei sect in the South County were killed by the snow leopards on Qingling Mountain. This is a matter of your Tanlei sect in the South County. What does it have to do with me? It's just a loss of your Tanlei sect in the South County. What benefits does it bring to our Shadow Alliance? Why would I frame you? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, I didn't expect your memory to be so bad. We've already talked about it just now. Why did you frame the senior craftsman of our South County Tanlei sect? You just want to weaken the strength of our South County Tanlei sect bit by bit, and then attack us. You want to take our South County Tanlei sect as your subordinate. Yi Tianhua, you're so cruel. Our South County Tanlei sect and your Shadow Alliance have never interfered with each other. You're just doing this for a little profit. Yi Tianhua, you've really made me see you in a new light. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, what you said is very simple. However, if what you said is really implemented, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. Zhang Chunren, think about it. Even if I set up the senior craftsman of the Tantra sect in the South County to weaken the strength of the Tantra sect in the South County, once the senior craftsmen of the Tantra sect in the South County are killed, what is left of the Tantra sect? Without the senior craftsmen of your South County Tanlei sect, even if I subdue you, what's the use? Zhang Chunren, without those senior craftsmen, what's the use of subduing your South County Tanlei sect? Do you think I can only take your territory? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense. This is just a trick. Our South County Tanlei sect has a total of 10 craftsmen. You don't need to kill all 10 of them. You only need to kill half of them to weaken the strength of our South County Tanlei sect. At that time, as long as you defeat our South County Tanlei sect, you still have half of the senior craftsmen to use. At that time, you'll still get a lot of profit. Can't you do that? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren immediately sneered. Yi Tianhua, what else do you have to say? Your plan has been seen through by us. You don't need to kill all of our craftsmen because they won't benefit you. You only need to kill a part of them and weaken the strength of our South County Tanlei sect. At that time, you can still get what you want. Yi Tianhua, don't quibble anymore. Quickly agree to our conditions. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, you're wrong. Everything you said is just your imagination. You said that I schemed to kill the senior craftsman of your South County Tanlei sect in order to weaken the strength of your South County Tanlei sect and then defeat your South County Tanlei sect. However, what evidence do you have? What evidence do you have to prove that what happened on Qingling Mountain was my plan? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, didn't you hear what Yuan Weiqing said just now? Do you think he's wrong? Yi Tianhua shook his head. No, what you said is completely wrong. If you say so, then I can also say that it's a plan set up by your South County Tanlei sect. Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer him. Just like what you said just now, this matter was originally a plan set up by your South County Tanlei sect. Then through this matter, you blamed it on me and then took advantage of it. Can't you do this? Can't the truth of this matter be like this? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was furious. He pointed at Yi Tianhua and shouted sternly. Yi Tianhua, do you mean that I deliberately framed my own son and then blamed it on you in order to get your 500,000 gold coins? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I didn't say that. It's just an example. What I want to say is that this matter is very strange. Why did it happen when I didn't know anything about it? Therefore, I must get to the bottom of this matter. I want to see the truth of this matter. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, what is the truth? I can tell you now. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him. The truth is that you want to frame our South County Tanlei sect and then defeat our South County Tanlei sect to take the huge profits of our South County Tanlei sect. Yi Tianhua, this is your real purpose. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I've already said that this is just your imagination. I didn't do this, so I naturally won't admit it. If I did it, I wouldn't have come to your date. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused. He turned his head to look at An Hongda and Du Wudai before continuing, if I was the one who did this, why would I come here? Moreover, if I was the one who did this, why would we come here unprepared and let you injure An Hongda and Du Wudai? Yuan Weiqing, if I'm prepared for this matter, it's impossible for you to injure An Hongda and Du Wudai. Moreover, if this was really done by me, then I'm afraid that we would have already subdued you before you could even make a move. Yuan Weiqing, don't you understand? I don't mean any harm. I came here to solve this matter peacefully. Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua turned to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I know that your son was killed by the snow leopard and you feel very sad, so I also want to compensate you. Of course, it's within my ability. I'll promise to give you some compensation, just like how I promised to give you 500,000 gold coins. Although gold coins are important, they are definitely not as important as your son. The reason why I promised you was that you would feel better. However, after doing all this, not only are you not grateful to me, you're even asking for more. Zhang Chunren, this matter has nothing to do with me. Logically speaking, even if I don't compensate you, I won't let my conscience down. However, not only are you not grateful to me, you even injured An Hongda and Du Wudai, and they're still unconscious. Zhang Chunren, think about it carefully. Are you worthy of me? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. Yuan Weiqing suddenly said loudly from the side, Yi Tianhua, I really didn't expect that we've already seen through you and you're still quibbling over there. Indeed, you agreed to our first condition and wanted to give us 500,000 gold coins as compensation. However, isn't this something that should be done? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Yi Tianhua to reply and continued speaking. Our Deputy Hall Master Zhang's only son was killed by the snow leopard. Yi Tianhua, do you dare to say that this has nothing to do with you? Even if you say it, will we believe you? Chapter 678. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I don't understand why things have developed to this point. I clearly don't know anything, but you insist that I did it. Tell me, what did I do? Why did I do it? What benefits does it bring me? Can you tell me? Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, don't pretend to be pitiful anymore. It's useless for you to pretend now. We won't believe you anymore. I can tell you that we already know that everything was done by you. You deliberately didn't tell us about the snow leopard because you wanted to assassinate the senior craftsman of our Tanlei sect. But we didn't expect that Vice Hall Master Zhang's son, Zhang Huosheng, also went. In the end, Zhang Huosheng was also killed by the snow leopard, which caused this matter. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer, he snorted and continued. Yi Tianhua, if it weren't for Vice Hall Master Zhang's son, Zhang Huosheng, and the fact that you've only harmed 2 advanced blacksmiths, we might not have investigated you and allowed you to continue concealing the truth. Perhaps this was your plan. You knew that if we only lost the craftsman, we wouldn't find trouble with you. But you never expected that not only did we lose the craftsman, but we also lost Vice Hall Master Zhang's son, Zhang Huosheng. Vice Hall Master Zhang lost his only son, so naturally, he wouldn't let you go easily. That's why we came to find trouble with you. And your plan was completely seen through by us. Yi Tianhua, this time we definitely won't let you go. If Vice Hall Master Zhang didn't see through your plan, perhaps your plan would have succeeded. At that time, the unlucky one would be our Tanlei sect. Yi Tianhua looked at Yuan Weiqing with a dumbfounded expression. After a while, he reacted and said with a wry smile, Yuan Weiqing, I really didn't expect that you could think of so many problems through this matter. You're really a genius. Unfortunately, you used your wisdom in the wrong place. This matter has nothing to do with me. It's not that I didn't tell you about the snow leopard on purpose. As for how many people you lost because of this matter, to be honest, I really don't care, because this has nothing to do with me. Yuan Weiqing, use your wisdom and think about the problem. There must be something wrong with this matter. Think about where the problem is. As long as we solve the problem of your compensation will naturally be solved. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, haven't I made it clear enough? You did everything. You set up our Tanlei sect in the South County to defeat our Tanlei sect. Yi Tianhua, you better stop quibbling. It's useless because we won't believe you anymore. Zhang Chunren sneered and said, Yi Tianhua, give us your solution. How are you going to compensate us? Otherwise, we won't let you go. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, how do you want to solve this? Zhang Chunren sneered and said, Yi Tianhua, I've already told you the solution. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused before continuing. There are a total of 2 conditions. One is to compensate with gold coins, and the other is to give you free information. As long as you agree to these 2 conditions, I'll let you go this time. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, if there's no second condition, I'll only choose the first one. Then tell me, how many gold coins should I give you to satisfy you? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment, then he sneered and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, forget it. You can't afford the gold coins I want. You can only exchange it with the second condition. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I've decided to only agree to your first condition. Tell me, how many gold coins do you want to end this matter? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren couldn't help but frown. After a moment of silence, he slowly said, Yi Tianhua, since you only want to give me gold coins, then I'll give you 3 million gold coins. If you agree, then we'll end this matter. What do you think? 3 million gold coins. Yi Tianhua looked at Zhang Chunren in shock, and couldn't help but exclaim, Zhang Chunren, are you crazy? Just now you wanted 2 million gold coins, how can you ask for 3 million gold coins in the blink of an eye? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, that was then, and this is now. Now you only need to give me 3 million gold coins, and we'll end this matter. If you delay any longer, I might ask for 4 million gold coins. Do you believe me? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was instantly enraged. Zhang Chunren, are you playing with me? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, why would I play with you? I only want 3 million gold coins now. If you don't have it, then you have to agree to my second condition, and we'll end this matter. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I really don't have 3 million gold coins. You should change the price. I can't accept this price. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, I don't want to bargain with you. I only want your compensation. If you agree, then we'll end this matter. If you don't, then don't blame me for being impolite. Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, I sincerely want to reconcile with you, but you're playing with me. You know that I don't have 3 million gold coins, but you still ask for such a high price. This is really hard for me to accept. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, if you don't have 3 million gold coins, you can promise me free information for 5 years. Is there a difference? Yi Tianhua sighed. No matter how much gold coins I give you, this number is fixed, and there won't be any changes. But 5 years of free information, there are too many changes. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to reply, he sighed and continued. Zhang Chunren, just like this matter now, just the news of the fire rising rock on the Green Tower Mountain has created so many changes. If it's 5 years of free information, then how many changes will there be? When that time comes, I'm afraid I won't only have to face this problem. Wouldn't that be terrible? Zhang Chunren, if that's really the case, then what do you think I should do? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned, but Yuan Weiqing beat him to it and said, Yi Tianhua, why don't you trust us so much? Our second condition is only to make up for the gold coins we lack. Other than that, we won't do anything else. You don't have to worry about that. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I'm not at ease. Just the news of the fire prickly rock on Green Tower Mountain has already caused such a commotion. And Hongda and Du Wudai have already been injured by you. Now that things have come to this, you actually want me to be at ease? Yuan Weiqing, tell me, if it were you, would you feel at ease? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, do you think we're the same as you? At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to reply, he continued, Yi Tianhua, don't worry. Yi Tianhua, don't worry. Nothing will happen to us. As long as you agree to our second condition, we can guarantee that we won't cause any trouble for you. What do you think? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I can't take this risk. Although you've promised me now, if you go back on your word, then won't I be the one to suffer? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Yi Tianhua, don't worry. We won't do anything untrustworthy. What's more, what can we do with the information? We just want to exchange it for some gold coins. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you use this free news to do something like today, what should I do? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Yi Tianhua, don't worry. Nothing will go wrong. Yi Tianhua sighed. You're not worried, but I am. If something goes wrong, the consequences will be unimaginable. That's why I won't agree to your condition. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, Yi Tianhua, I promise you that after we get 5 years of free news, we won't use it to harm you. Don't worry. Zhang Chunren also said loudly, Yi Tianhua, if you don't agree, then give me 3 million gold coins. If you don't agree, then give me 5 years of free information and let me exchange it for 3 million gold coins. You can choose between these two conditions. Do you want to give me gold coins or do you want to give me free information? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I definitely don't have any gold coins, and I can't give you 5 years of free news. Is there a third option? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren said angrily, Yi Tianhua, why don't you agree? Are you afraid that we'll harm you? Yi Tianhua nodded calmly. That's right, I'm afraid that you'll harm me. That's why I don't dare to agree to your condition. Saying this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to reply, he continued. The situation at Qinling Mountain has already developed to this stage. If I agree to your condition for free, then won't there be more of such things happening in the future? What should I do then? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sighed. Yi Tianhua, how can I explain this so that you know that I don't have any ill intentions? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. I don't know either. Unless you have a way to guarantee that you won't use the 5 years of free news to do bad things, then I might agree to your condition. Otherwise, it's impossible. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, Yi Tianhua, didn't I promise you just now? We're only using the free news to exchange for gold coins to recoup our losses. We definitely won't do anything else. Don't you believe us? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, this kind of promise is useless. There are only a few of us here today. If you go back on your word in the future, I won't be able to prove that you said such a thing. So, you have to come up with some other way to guarantee that I'll believe you. Otherwise, I won't believe you no matter what. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. Yi Tianhua, then tell me, how can we guarantee that you'll agree to our condition? Tianhua shook his head. I don't know either. If I knew what to do, I would have said it long ago. Why would I wait until now? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said loudly, If that's the case, then we swear that we won't use the 5 years of free news to harm you. That should be enough, right? Zhang Chunren also hurriedly said, That's right, Tianhua. We can swear that we won't use the 5 years of free news to harm you. That should be enough for you to believe us. Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Zhang Chunren, if you were me, under these circumstances would you believe me? Hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned. After thinking for a moment, he said loudly, Of course I would believe you. As people of the underworld, as long as we make an oath, we will definitely keep it. So, as long as you swear, I will definitely believe you. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua nodded with a smile and said slowly, Since you believe my oath, that's great. I swear now that I will immediately go back and investigate this matter. After I've investigated this matter thoroughly, I will definitely give Zhang Chunren a satisfactory answer. Speaking up to this point, Tianhua paused and turned to look at Zhang Chunren before continuing, Zhang Chunren, if I swear like this, you should believe me, right? After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned. After a while, he pointed his finger at Tianhua and said angrily, Tianhua, you're messing with me? Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I'm not messing with you. I'm just doing as you said. Don't forget, you said yourself that you would believe me. I've already made an oath just now. I'll go back and investigate this matter now. I think that I should be able to find out the truth very quickly. When the time comes, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Zhang Chunren, what do you think? After hearing Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was instantly enraged. What he said just now was originally prepared for himself. He never thought that Tianhua would use it to make things difficult for himself. Letting Tianhua go back was definitely impossible. If Tianhua ran away, then there would be no way to find him. Chapter 679. Seeing that Zhang Chunren did not answer, Tianhua asked again, Zhang Chunren, how is it? I've already sworn. You should believe me now, right? As soon as Tianhua finished speaking, Yuan Weiqing said, No, you absolutely can't leave today. Hearing this, Tianhua turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked with a frown, Yuan Weiqing, why? I've already sworn that after I investigate clearly, I'll come back to solve this problem. Do you have any other questions? Hearing Tianhua's question, Yuan Weiqing was stunned and could not answer for a moment. He could only look at Zhang Chunren with a questioning gaze. Zhang Chunren frowned and thought carefully for a moment before slowly saying, Tianhua, the evidence is conclusive. Even if you go back and investigate clearly, you'll still have to compensate me. In that case, it's better for us to solve it now. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, what do you mean by conclusive evidence? Don't you feel that this matter is very strange? At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer him, he continued. Zhang Chunren, I actually didn't know about such a big matter. Do you think this matter is very normal? Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. Tianhua, we've already said it just now. You're just quibbling. The matter can't be clearer, but you still say it has nothing to do with you. I think you're deliberately denying it and don't want to compensate us. Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I'm not lying. I really don't know about this matter. I want you to give me some time. I'll definitely find out the truth, because I also want to know what happened to cause such a thing to happen. Yuan Weiqing sneered. Tianhua, we've already seen through your painstaking plan to deal with our South County's secret thunder sect. Now you're still quibbling. Do you think we're fools and can be fooled? Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you're wrong. I've already said many times that I don't know about this matter. What do you want me to do to make you believe me? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly said loudly, "As long as you compensate us and agree to my 2 conditions, I will naturally believe you." Yi Tianhua shook his head. "We still haven't figured out the truth of the matter. How can I agree to your conditions?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing said angrily, "Yi Tianhua, why are you still denying it? Now that things are clear, why don't you admit it?" Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Yuan Weiqing, you said that the matter is already clear, but why am I not clear about it? I don't know anything about this matter, so how can I agree to your conditions?" After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and said, "Yi Tianhua, do you admit that this matter is caused by the South County Shadow Alliance?" Yi Tianhua shook his head. "I don't know, because I'm not sure about this matter either. I need to investigate before I can give you an answer." Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. "Yi Tianhua, I really didn't expect that even now, you still won't admit that this matter was caused by the Shadow Alliance." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer. "Yi Tianhua, then let's talk about it. Did you know when we first bought the flaming stones?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yi Tianhua nodded. "I know, because every time we sold a piece of information, I would know." Zhang Chunren nodded. "Yi Tianhua, after we bought the information about the flaming stones, did you ask about it again?" Yi Tianhua shook his head. "No, this is just an ordinary piece of information. I didn't pay much attention to it." Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded again. "Yi Tianhua, this is just an ordinary piece of information. You know this very well. Why is it ordinary? It's because, according to your judgment, there is no danger around the flaming stones. Am I right?" After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua nodded. "That's true. If we had known that there was a snow leopard beside the flaming stones, then this information would not have been ordinary because this information carried a certain amount of danger. Therefore, we had to figure out the matter before selling the information." Zhang Chunren nodded. "Yi Tianhua, you sold us the information about the flaming soaring rock as ordinary information. Is there anything wrong with that?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yi Tianhua frowned and thought for a moment before nodding. "That's right. That's what happened. We sold the information about the flaming stones to you as ordinary information." Zhang Chunren sighed. "The South Region Shadow Alliance sold the information about the flaming stones to us as ordinary information. However, this is definitely not ordinary information. It's dangerous information." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer, he continued. "Yi Tianhua, the news about the ordinary flaming stone is definitely not ordinary because the flaming stone is in the snow leopard's residence. It's very dangerous. However, you sold such dangerous information to us as ordinary information, causing our Tanlei sect in South County to suffer a great loss. What is this?" Upon hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. "Zhang Chunren, I've already said that I don't know about this matter. I really thought that it was just an ordinary piece of news. I never thought that there would be news about the snow leopard next to the flaming crystal. This is really unexpected. It's because I didn't know that I sold this information to you as ordinary information. I really didn't know about this." After hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren shook his head. "Yi Tianhua, let's not talk about whether you know what this information is or not. Let's talk about whether the South Region Shadow Alliance sold this information to us." Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and nodded. "That's right. Yes, the Shadow Alliance sold it to you." Zhang Chunren nodded. "Then let me ask you again. This matter was originally a small matter. However, when we went to Qingling Mountain to look for the flaming stones, we found the snow leopard. In the end, my son and 2 senior craftsmen from the South Region's secret Thunder Sect were killed by the snow leopard. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer his question, he continued. Yi Tianhua, this is what happened. Let me ask you now, does this matter have anything to do with the South Region Shadow Alliance? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed and slowly nodded. If the truth of the matter is really as you said, then this matter does have a lot to do with the South Region Shadow Alliance. Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. However, I really don't know about this matter. That's why I want to ask you to let me go so that I can investigate this matter and see what the problem is. Then, I can give you a satisfactory answer. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren shook his head bitterly. Yi Tianhua, I don't want to drag this matter on for too long. Every time I talk about this matter, my heart feels like it's being cut by a knife. I don't want to think about this matter anymore. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Yi Tianhua to answer him and continued. Yi Tianhua, just as you said just now, you want to go back and investigate this matter. Sure, I support you. However, who can guarantee that you don't want to take the opportunity to escape? If you really want to escape, then if we let you go this time, we'll never be able to find you. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua also sighed. Zhang Chunren, what should I say to make you believe me? I'm going back this time just to investigate this matter, because I also want to know the truth of this matter. Therefore, please believe me that I definitely won't take the opportunity to escape. I'll definitely investigate this matter as soon as possible so that we can resolve the matter between us. Zhang Chunren, please believe me. I definitely won't lie to you. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, actually, I believe you. You want to go back and investigate this matter clearly before giving me a satisfactory answer. However, I've already said that I don't want to drag this matter on for too long because this is a painful torture to me, so I want to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Yi Tianhua, I hope you can understand me and support my thoughts so that I can alleviate my pain. Yi Tianhua, I'll thank you first. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua froze for a moment, then bitterly smiled and said, Zhang Chunren, I only agreed to give you 500,000 gold coins as my compensation to make you feel better. However, as for your second condition, I really can't agree to it, because 5 years of free information is too big of a matter. If anything goes wrong, I can't bear the responsibility. Zhang Chunren, I hope you can understand me this time. Give me some time to investigate this matter clearly. Then, I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Please believe me, I won't sneak away because of this matter because I definitely didn't do it. How can I sneak away? I just want to go back and investigate so that we can all understand the truth of this matter. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, it has already happened. Because of the information you sold to us, my son and the 2 senior craftsmen of the secret Thunder Sect in the South Region have been killed. No matter what, you have to give me an answer. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua quickly nodded. Zhang Chunren, don't worry, I'll definitely give you an answer. However, I'll only give you a satisfactory answer after I investigate this matter. After hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded and suddenly asked, Yi Tianhua, let me ask you, if you investigate this matter clearly, will you agree to my second condition? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yi Tianhua frowned. After thinking for a long time, he slowly said, maybe I'll agree to your condition, but I definitely won't agree to 5 years of free information. At most, 1 year of free information is too much. I definitely won't agree to it. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, Don't you think 1 year of free information is too little? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua's answer. Yi Tianhua, what I want is 5 years of free information, but you're only giving me 1 year of free information. The difference between the two is too great, so I definitely won't agree to it unless you promise me 3 years of free information. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head and smiled bitterly. Zhang Chunren, that's impossible. 3 years is too long. How can I agree to it? Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him. He sighed and continued. Zhang Chunren, just because of the incident on Qingling Mountain, there's such a big problem between us. Even An Hongda and Du Wudai were injured by you. Zhang Chunren, if I agree to 5 years of free information, then if something goes wrong, won't there be countless incidents on Qingling Mountain like what happened on Qingling Mountain? When that time comes, how am I supposed to resolve it? Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren immediately shook his head. Yi Tianhua, then you can also agree to my first condition, 3 million gold coins. As long as you give me 3 million gold coins, I won't ask for the second condition. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, if I really give you 3 million gold coins, will you really give up on the second condition? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren immediately nodded without hesitation. Of course, I just want your compensation. I have no ill intentions. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Yi Tianhua to answer him. He sighed and continued. But you're only giving me 500,000 gold coins. This is something I can't accept no matter what. That's why I want the second condition, 5 years of free information. To tell you the truth, I want to use these 5 years of free information to earn some gold coins to compensate for my loss. Yi Tianhua, is there anything wrong with me doing this? If you have 3 million gold coins, I can immediately give up on the second condition. Chapter 680. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned. For a moment, he couldn't figure out what Zhang Chunren meant. He originally thought that Zhang Chunren's main intention was to fulfill the second condition. As for the first condition, perhaps it was just a matter of convenience, or perhaps he really wanted some gold coins, but that definitely wasn't his main intention. But now, from what he heard, it seemed that Zhang Chunren only wanted 3 million gold coins. If he gave him 3 million gold coins, he would give up on the second condition and only choose the first one. What was going on? Could it be that he guessed wrong? Zhang Chunren only wanted compensation and didn't have any other intentions? Seeing that Yi Tianhua didn't answer his question, Zhang Chunren sighed. Yi Tianhua, what are you thinking? I've already said it so clearly. What else do you want? Yuan Weiqing said loudly from the side. Yi Tianhua, our Vice Hall Master Zhang has already said that as long as you give him 3 million gold coins, this matter will be considered over. Are you still not satisfied? After hearing the two's words, Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly. I know what you mean, but I don't have 3 million gold coins. If you can reduce it a little, I'll think of a way to get it. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren's eyes spat fire. Yi Tianhua, what do you mean? I've already agreed to not fulfill your second condition, as long as you give me 3 million gold coins. Why are you still not agreeing? Do you think that my son doesn't know how much he has? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua hurriedly waved his hand. Zhang Chunren, why would I think that? Although I have a lot of gold coins, how can it compare to your son? You're thinking too much. I definitely don't mean that. Yuan Weiqing said angrily. Yi Tianhua, since you don't mean that, then hurry up and agree to our conditions. Stop talking nonsense. Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. You're asking for too much gold coins. I really can't give you that much. Speaking up to here, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to reply and continued. Zhang Chunren, how about this 1,500,000 gold coins? As long as you agree, I'll immediately borrow it for you when I go back. I'll also give you the 1,500,000 gold coins. What do you think? Nonsense. As soon as Yi Tianhua finished speaking, Yuan Weiqing angrily shouted, Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense over there. We want 3 million gold coins. Why are you only giving us 1,500,000 gold coins? What do you mean by that? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua let out a sigh. Yuan Weiqing, I really don't have 5 million gold coins. Even if I want to give them to you, you have to let me go back and collect some gold coins. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, I really have nothing to say to you. At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment before continuing. Yi Tianhua, we asked for 1 million gold coins at first, but you only agreed to 500,000 gold coins, directly reducing the total price to half. Now, our Vice Hall Master Zhang asked you for 3 million gold coins, but you reduced it to 5 million gold coins. Yi Tianhua, do you think that this is a market where we can bargain as we wish without any rules? Is that it? Hearing this, Yi Tianhua hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, how can it be like what you said? The reason I bargain with you is because I really don't have that many gold coins. If I did, why wouldn't I give them to you? Why would I bargain with you here? Yuan Weiqing sneered. Yi Tianhua, I finally understand. Even if you had 10 million gold coins, you would never take them out. Because you are that kind of person. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua immediately became furious. Yuan Weiqing, how could I have 10 million gold coins? Don't talk nonsense. If Vice Hall Master Zhang thinks that I really have 10 million gold coins and I don't give them to him, he will misunderstand me. Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a cold smile. Yi Tianhua, are you still afraid of being misunderstood? If you were afraid, you would have taken out your gold coins long ago. Why would you wait until now to bargain with us? Zhang Chunren, who had been silent all this time, suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, do you really not have 3 million gold coins? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yi Tianhua nodded. I really don't have it. If I did, I would definitely give it to you. Zhang Chunren sneered. Since you don't have 3 million gold coins, how about this? I don't want a single gold coin. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was taken aback. Just as he was about to speak, Zhang Chunren continued. Yi Tianhua, I don't need a single gold coin, but you have to agree to my second condition. 5 years of free information. As long as you agree to my condition, I promise not to take a single gold coin. Yi Tianhua, what do you think? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned. Then, he frowned deeply and turned to look at Zhang Chunren. After a while, he suddenly sighed. Zhang Chunren, this is your real goal, right? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren's expression changed, but soon returned to normal. Yi Tianhua, don't be ungrateful. You have 3 million gold coins, I won't take it, but you have to agree to my second condition. Let me exchange the free information for some gold coins. Yi Tianhua, my son and 2 senior craftsmen from the secret Thunder sect in the south region were harmed by you. No matter what you say, this matter won't end easily. Regardless of whether you agree to my first condition or my second condition, you must compensate me. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, 5 million gold coins. If you agree, I will immediately gather the gold coins for you. If you don't agree, then I can't do anything. As for your second condition, I can't agree to it no matter what because this matter involves too much. If an accident happens, I'm afraid the consequences will be unimaginable. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, Just like we said, if you go back and investigate and find out where the problem is, will you not care about my matter? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's question, Yi Tianhua shook his head. No, after I investigate thoroughly, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sighed. Yi Tianhua, I don't understand. Since you have to compensate me sooner or later, why do you have to wait until you go back? After Zhang Chuanren's words, before Yi Tianhua could speak, Yuan Weiqing said coldly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't you understand? Yi Tianhua doesn't intend to compensate us. The reason he wants to leave is because we saw through his plan, so he wants to sneak away. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you can't fall for his trick. I can guarantee that if you let him go today, it will be impossible to find him in the future. So this time, you have to make Yi Tianhua agree to our conditions. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have another chance. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren nodded and turned to look at Yi Tianhua, enunciating each word clearly. Yi Tianhua, you heard what Yuan Weiqing said just now, right? Speaking up to this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to reply, he continued to ask. Yi Tianhua, now that things have come to this, what do you have to say? Hearing this, Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I've said it many times. The reason I want to leave is to go back and investigate this matter. I have no intention of using this opportunity to sneak away. Zhang Chunren sighed. Yi Tianhua, since you have to agree to my conditions sooner or later, why don't you agree now? As for the results of your investigation in the future, I won't ask about it anymore. From today onwards, we are even. What do you think? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yi Tianhua hesitated for a moment before shaking his head and speaking sincerely. Vice Hall Master Zhang, this matter is very strange. Until now, I still don't know what the problem is, so I have to go back and ask to see what the problem is before I can give you an answer. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I hope you can understand that I'm doing this not because I don't want to compensate you, but because I want to know the exact information before I compensate you. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly shouted, Vice Hall Master Zhang, since Yi Tianhua doesn't want to care about this matter, then we don't have to be polite. As long as we keep him here, he will agree sooner or later. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua couldn't help but frown. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, do you really want to fight? Looking at Yi Tianhua's cold eyes, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but take a step back. He forced himself to calm down and said, Yi Tianhua, if you don't agree to our conditions, then we can only use force. Yi Tianhua sneered, Yuan Weiqing with just you? Humph, if it weren't for the fact that this matter is still unclear, I would have humph. Hearing Yi Tianhua's cold words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and hurriedly shouted, Hall Master Shui, save me, Yi Tianhua is going to attack me. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's shout, Shui Zhijing was stunned for a moment and then frowned. Although Yuan Weiqing shouted loudly, Shui Zhijing could clearly see that Yi Tianhua didn't intend to attack. Shui Zhijing turned to look at Yi Tianhua and asked in a low voice, Yi Tianhua, what do you mean? Hearing Shui Zhijing's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head, Hall Master Shui, I don't mean anything else. I just want to go back and investigate to see what's going on, then give you an answer. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Shui Zhijing turned to look at Zhang Chunren and asked in a low voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what do you mean? Although Shui Zhijing was the Hall Master and Zhang Chunren was only the Vice Hall Master, this matter was Zhang Chuanren's matter after all. Shui Zhijing was only Zhang Chuanren's helper. If he wanted to make a decision, he had to let Zhang Chunren make the decision. After all, the one who was killed was Zhang Chuanren's son. Hearing Shui Zhijing's question, Zhang Chunren shook his head. Hall Master Shui, you heard Yuan Weiqing's words just now. I'm sure you know what Yi Tianhua is thinking. I've already taken a few steps back, but Yi Tianhua still refuses to agree to my conditions. Hall Master Shui, don't you understand? Yi Tianhua just doesn't want to agree to my conditions and wants to take the opportunity to slip away. Speaking of this, Zhang Chuanren's tone paused, and his expression suddenly became very ugly. He said, Hall Master Shui, what I'm most worried about is that if Yi Tianhua goes back, he will definitely take action again to deal with our Tanlei sect. What if we accidentally fall into Yi Tianhua's trap? Last time, we already lost 2 senior craftsmen. If we lose 2 more, we will lose nearly half of our senior craftsmen. At that time, the strength of our South County's Secret Thunder sect will definitely be greatly reduced. Perhaps Yi Tianhua will use this opportunity to launch a large-scale attack to defeat our Secret Thunder sect. At that time, it will be too late for us to regret. Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Shui Zhizheng's expression suddenly changed. After a long silence, he slowly said, No, I don't think Yi Tianhua will do that. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you still think too badly of him. Hearing Shui Zhizheng's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly let out a cold laugh. Hall Master Shui, do you think I think too badly of Yi Tianhua? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Shui Zhizheng to answer him. Hall Master Shui, at this point, can't you see that Yi Tianhua is stalling for time? His main purpose is to take the opportunity to slip away. Hall Master Shui, is my condition very high? Although 3 million gold coins is a lot, I'd rather my son come back than 3 million gold coins. Even if it's 10 million gold coins, I don't want my son to be killed by the snow leopard. Hall Master Shui, don't you understand? Yi Tianhua isn't even willing to take out 3 million gold coins. He clearly doesn't want to compensate us. Therefore, we can't let him leave. Otherwise, once Yi Tianhua leaves, it will be difficult for us to find him again. Hall Master Shui, even if Yi Tianhua doesn't compensate us, what if Yi Tianhua wants to harm our South County Tanlei sect? That would be terrible. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing, Hall Master Shui, it's really not easy to guard against an enemy in the dark because you don't know what method Yi Tianhua will use to deal with us. If we don't know what method he will use, we naturally can't guard against it. In the long run, our South County Tanlei sect will definitely fall into his trap. At that time, it will be too late to regret. Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Shui Zhizheng was stunned. Soon, his forehead was covered in sweat. If what Zhang Chunren said was true, then letting Yi Tianhua go would be the beginning of the nightmare for the South County Tanlei sect. Chapter 681. Seeing that Shui Zhizheng was a little moved, Zhang Chunren hurriedly continued, Hall Master Shui, now we can only capture Yi Tianhua and make him agree to our conditions. Only then can we counter him. Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Shui Zhizheng frowned. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and asked tentatively, Zhang Chunren, what do you mean? What do you mean by counter him? Hearing Shui Zhizheng's question, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered, Hall Master Shui, what I mean is, we should strike first. Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Shui Zhizheng turned to look at Yi Tianhua in the distance and asked in a low voice, Zhang Chunren, could it be that your conditions are really as Yi Tianhua said? Are you trying to harm them? Zhang Chunren shook his head, Hall Master Shui, there are 2 benefits to doing this. If Yi Tianhua has no ill intentions towards us, we can use 5 years of free information to exchange for enough gold coins. If Yi Tianhua has ill intentions towards us, we can use these 5 years of free information to restrain Yi Tianhua. Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Shui Zhizheng's expression became very ugly. Zhang Chunren, if you do this, wouldn't you be violating morality? How are you different from those evil people? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Hall Master Shui, you misunderstood. What I mean is that if Yi Tianhua has no ill intentions towards us, we will not do anything to him. We will only use 5 years of free information in exchange for gold coins. But if he really has ill intentions towards us, then we have to have a way to deal with it. These 5 years of free information is the best way to deal with it. As long as Yi Tianhua dares to act rashly, we can use these 5 years of information to make him have no time to make a move on our secret Thunder Sect. Is there anything wrong with that? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhijing suddenly let out a sigh. Zhang Chunren, I don't think you should give up your free information for the next 5 years. Why don't you just exchange it for gold coins and let Yi Tianhua pay you? That would save you some trouble. After hearing Xue Zhijing's words, Zhang Chunren immediately became anxious. Hall Master Xue, although you have good intentions, what if Yi Tianhua has ill intentions towards us? What should we do? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Xue Zhijing's reply. He snorted coldly and continued to speak. Hall Master Xue, if Yi Tianhua really has ill intentions towards us and we are not prepared, when that time comes, the secret Thunder Sect in the South County will probably die in our hands. Hall Master Xue, you must think carefully about what to do. Don't let the secret Thunder Sect in the South County be harmed. Otherwise, it will be too late for regret. Xue Zhijing frowned. Zhang Chunren, do you really have any evidence that Yi Tianhua is trying to harm us? Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhijing's words, use Heng's evidence. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Xue Zhijing's reply. He snorted coldly and continued to speak. Hall Master Xue, I only came here to test Yi Tianhua. If Yi Tianhua knows that he is wrong and compensates me, then it can prove that he really doesn't know about this matter. In other words, Yi Tianhua has no ill intentions towards us. Of course, I can't guarantee that other than Yi Tianhua, there are other people in the South County's Shadow Alliance who have ill intentions towards us. If Yi Tianhua compensates us and agrees to our conditions, it is enough to prove that Yi Tianhua didn't do it on purpose. However, Hall Master Xue, as you can see, Yi Tianhua doesn't agree to compensate us. He just keeps saying that he wants to go back and investigate. Hall Master Xue, don't you think this is strange? Yi Tianhua didn't mention the compensation and just wanted to leave. Or rather, he realized that we saw through his plan and wanted to leave as soon as possible. Hall Master Xue, why did Yi Tianhua do this? Why didn't he mention the compensation and just want to leave? Do you think this is normal? Let's make an example. Hall Master Xue, if you did something wrong and someone came after you, wouldn't you first think about how to solve the other party's problem? However, Yi Tianhua didn't think about solving my problem. He wanted to leave here. Don't you think it's strange? Hearing Zhang Chunren's series of questions, Xue Zhijing hesitated for a moment before saying in a low voice, Zhang Chunren, didn't Yi Tianhua just say that he wants to go back and investigate this matter? As long as he investigates clearly, he will give us a satisfactory answer. Is there something wrong with that? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Hall Master Xue, even if Yi Tianhua goes back and investigates, won't he compensate me after he finds out? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused, but then, without waiting for Xue Zhijing to answer him, he snorted coldly and continued. Hall Master Xue, you have to understand that even if Yi Tianhua goes back and investigates this matter, no matter what the final result is, he will still have to compensate me. I think Yi Tianhua should be very clear about this. Since that's the case, Yi Tianhua will have to compensate me sooner or later. Why doesn't he compensate me first and say that he will give me a satisfactory answer after he investigates clearly? This is clearly an excuse. Yi Tianhua's real intention is not to compensate me because as long as they defeat our South County's Tanlei sect, they naturally don't need any compensation. Therefore, Yi Tianhua is actually stalling for time. As long as he can stall for time, He can use this period of time to frame our South Counties Tanlay sect again. After weakening our strength, he will naturally be able to defeat us with all his strength. At that time, the South Counties Tanlay sect will already belong to Yi Tianhua. Therefore, I can be sure that Yi Tianhua wants to leave this place and stall for time. He definitely doesn't want to go back and investigate clearly and give us a satisfactory answer, as he said. Just as the two of them were talking, Yi Tianhua saw Xue Zhizheng and Zhang Chunren whispering to each other. He could not help but feel a little impatient and asked loudly, "Hall Master Xue, I can guarantee you that after I go back, I will investigate this matter as soon as possible and give your South Counties Tanlay sect a satisfactory answer. Hall Master Xue, don't worry, Yi Tianhua, will definitely keep my word. I will definitely not lie to you." After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and turned to look at Xue Zhizheng. "Hall Master Xue, did you hear that? Yi Tianhua only wants to leave and doesn't want to compensate us. Don't you understand?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng frowned even more. He lowered his head and was silent for a moment before speaking slowly. "Zhang Chunren, what do you think about this matter?" Hearing Xue Zhizheng's question, Zhang Chunren sneered, "Hall Master Xue, since Yi Tianhua wants to harm us, then there's no need for us to be polite. As long as we join forces to take him down, we won't be afraid that he won't agree to our conditions." Xue Zhizheng sighed. "Zhang Chunren, this isn't very good. If we take Yi Tianhua down, wouldn't we be in the wrong? What if Yi Tianhua doesn't have any ill intentions towards us? Wouldn't we have done something wrong and be ridiculed by the world? Zhang Chunren, we have to treat this matter seriously. We can't act rashly. We have to investigate this matter clearly before we make a choice." Seeing that Xue Zhizheng was still hesitating, Zhang Chunren was a little anxious and quickly said, "Hall Master Xue, why don't you understand? Yi Tianhua has ill intentions towards us, that's why he set this up." At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him. "Hall Master Xue, if my son wasn't involved in this matter, wouldn't Yi Tianhua be able to get away with it? Think about it carefully. If Yi Tianhua gets away with it this time, what if he does it a second time? What should we do then? Hall Master Xue, we've already lost 2 advanced blacksmiths. If Yi Tianhua sets up a second trap, we'll lose another 2 advanced blacksmiths. At that time, our South Counties Secret Thunder sect will lose nearly half of our advanced blacksmith. Our South Counties Secret Thunder sect has a total of 10 advanced blacksmiths. Once we lose more than half of our blacksmiths, our strength will definitely be damaged. At that time, even if we know Yi Tianhua's plan, I'm afraid we won't be able to turn the tables. Hall Master Xue, for the safety of the South Counties Secret Thunder sect, we have to take down Yi Tianhua. Only then can our South Counties Secret Thunder sect be in an invincible position." Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng shook his head with a bitter smile. "Zhang Chunren, I admit that what you said makes sense, but this is just a guess. If Yi Tianhua has no ill intentions towards us and we treat him like this, then it will definitely cause a war between our South Counties Secret Thunder sect and the South Counties Shadow Alliance. At that time, it will be too late to regret." Hearing Xue Zhizheng's words, Zhang Chunren sighed. "Hall Master Xue, if we really did something wrong, then we'll only regret it. However, if Yi Tianhua succeeds, then it won't be as simple as regret. It'll be too late for regret. Hall Master Xue, once our South Counties Secret Thunder sect loses more than half of our strength, even if you want to regret it, I'm afraid you won't be able to reverse the situation. At that time, will you be able to face the disciples of the South Counties Secret Thunder sect?" After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng smiled bitterly in his heart. Zhang Chunren was right. If Yi Tianhua really had bad intentions, then it would be too late to regret it after he completed his task. However, if he made a move against Yi Tianhua now, then Yi Tianhua would definitely bear a grudge. If it caused a war between the South County's Secret Thunder Sect and the South County's Shadow Alliance, that would not be a good thing. Thinking of this, Yi Tianhua hesitated. On one hand, he felt that Zhang Chunren was right, but on the other hand, he felt that he should not do this. This gave him a headache and he did not know what to do. Although Yi Tianhua's martial arts were strong, Xue Zhizheng had a way to deal with him. The South County's Secret Thunder Sect mainly used firearms. Once Xue Zhizheng used a powerful firearm, Yi Tianhua would definitely not have a good ending no matter how capable he was. However, Xue Zhizheng was also very clear that once he used that firearm, the South County's Secret Thunder Sect and the South County's Shadow Alliance would definitely start a war. At that time, it would not be a simple matter. It was precisely because of this reason that Xue Zhizheng was hesitant. However, Zhang Chunren's words made sense. If Yi Tianhua really had other intentions towards the South County's Secret Thunder Sect, then they would probably fall into Yi Tianhua's trap if they acted too late. At that time, they would no longer have the power to fight back. What should I do? How should I decide this matter? Should I take Yi Tianhua down or let him go? These two thoughts kept echoing in Xue Zhizheng's mind. Seeing that Xue Zhizheng did not speak and lowered his head to think, Zhang Chunren could not help but frown and whisper. Hall Master Xue, if you don't believe me, why don't we try Yi Tianhua and see what he means? Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Xue Zhizheng's reply and continued to speak. If Yi Tianhua has no ill intentions towards us, then we will let him go. However, if Yi Tianhua really has ill intentions towards us, then we must not let him go. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble. At that time, it will be too late for regret. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng nodded and asked, Zhang Chunren, what you said makes sense. However, how should we test to know what Yi Tianhua means? Hearing Xue Zhizheng's question, Zhang Chunren sneered. Hall Master Xue, just like I said earlier, I will ask Yi Tianhua to compensate me and make him agree to my conditions. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. If he agrees to my conditions, it proves that Yi Tianhua has no ill intentions towards us. However, if Yi Tianhua doesn't agree to my conditions, it is enough to prove that he definitely has ill intentions towards us. The reason why he wants to leave is to stall for time, so that he can take the opportunity to attack our Secret Thunder Sect. Hall Master Xue, as long as I use this method to test him, he will definitely have nowhere to hide. At that time, we will naturally know his intentions. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Xue Zhizheng sighed and nodded. Zhang Chunren, all right, you can try now and see what Yi Tianhua means. Speaking of this, Xue Zhizheng paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer him. As long as we find out, we can react. Zhang Chunren, you can ask him now. After hearing Xue Zhizheng's words, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yi Tianhua and asked loudly, Yi Tianhua, what do you plan to do about my son, Zhang Huoxing, and the two senior craftsmen of the Secret Thunder Sect? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing, Yi Tianhua, now that the evidence is conclusive, are you still not willing to agree to my conditions? Chapter 682. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, I've already said it. I really don't know why your son, Zhang Huoxing, became like this. So, I must go back and investigate clearly. Then, I'll give you a satisfactory answer. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, but I don't trust you. If you run away and hide, where can I find you? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, how can that be? We're all famous people in the South County. Why would I hide because of this? At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, Zhang Chunren, don't worry. I won't slip away. Once I've investigated everything, I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, I just want to ask, why don't you solve my problem now? Why do you have to go back and investigate clearly before you solve my problem? When Yi Tianhua heard this, he hesitated for a moment before slowly saying, Zhang Chunren, this matter is too strange. In our South County Shadow Alliance, such a situation has never happened before, so I have to go back and investigate what the problem is. Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, no matter where the problem is, are you going to solve this matter for me? Yi Tianhua was stunned for a moment before nodding. Zhang Chunren, that's indeed the case. As long as the problem is on my side, I'll solve it for you no matter what. Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, since you're going to solve it for me sooner or later, why don't you solve my problem now and then go back and solve yours? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned for a moment again. Then, he shook his head. Zhang Chunren, that's impossible. I have to investigate clearly before I can solve your problem. At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer him, he continued. Zhang Chunren, actually, there's really no need for us to continue talking. Don't waste any more time. As long as you let us go, I'll naturally investigate this matter as soon as possible. You'll naturally be able to solve your problem as soon as possible. Zhang Chunren, don't waste any more time. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren sneered again. Yi Tianhua, I understand now. You just don't want to solve my problem. Your main goal is to leave this place as soon as possible and find a place where no one is around to hide, right? Yi Tianhua shook his head and said with a bitter smile, Zhang Chunren, why do you always think that I will hide? Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Zhang Chunren's reply and continued to speak. Zhang Chunren, think about it carefully. Why would I want to hide? What good would it do me to hide? Could it be that I'll never see anyone again? Zhang Chunren, I hope you can believe me. I will definitely solve your problem. I will not take the opportunity to slip away. Doing so will not benefit me. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Xue Zhizheng's eyes lit up. He suddenly realized that Yi Tianhua was right. Although Zhang Chunren's matter was not small, as long as Yi Tianhua agreed to Zhang Chunren's conditions, there would naturally be no problem. As the boss of the South County Shadow Alliance, could it be that Yi Tianhua would hide in a deserted place and never see anyone again because of this problem? If that was the case, Xue Zhizheng would feel that it was not worth it for Yi Tianhua. As the most important figure in the South County Shadow Alliance, he had a lot of influence in the South County. However, for such a small matter, he gave up his future and hid in a deserted place, never to be seen again. Thinking about it carefully, no one would do such a thing because it was not worth it. Xue Zhizheng suddenly realized that Yi Tianhua had gone back to investigate this matter. He wanted to get to the bottom of this matter, and not take the opportunity to slip away. Thinking of this, Xue Zhizheng was about to speak when he heard Zhang Chunren sneer. After that, Zhang Chunren's voice was heard. Yi Tianhua, do you think that I don't understand what you're thinking? Humph, you can think that way, but let me tell you, I will definitely not fall for your trick. At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him. Yi Tianhua, you're right. After you slipped away, you didn't hide. You had another purpose. As for what your purpose is, At this point, Zhang Chunren paused and snorted coldly before continuing, Yi Tianhua, you want to hide for the time being and then secretly scheme to frame our South County's secret Thunder Sect. After weakening our strength, you can appear and defeat our South County's secret Thunder Sect. At that time, you will take the South County's secret Thunder Sect as your own. Naturally, you don't need to hide. Moreover, You don't need to agree to my conditions. If you're really capable, the South County's secret Thunder sect has already become yours. Why don't you agree to my conditions? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Xue Zhizhing's heart sank. Only then did he suddenly remember that Yi Tianhua was in a hurry to leave. Yi Tianhua would leave this place and find a place to hide first. Then, he would set up the same plan as Qinling Mountain to exhaust the strength of the South County's secret Thunder sect. When the strength of the South County's secret Thunder sect was exhausted to a certain extent, Yi Tianhua would officially appear and destroy the South County's secret Thunder sect. At that time, he would naturally not need to hide. Thinking of this, Xue Zhizhing was so angry that his eyes widened. He stared coldly at Yi Tianhua and said angrily, "Yi Tianhua, you're really ruthless. For your own purpose, you didn't hesitate to play us in circles. You really have a good plan." Haha! Hearing Xue Zhizhing's laughter, Zhang Chunren was overjoyed. He hurriedly said loudly, "Yi Tianhua, your plan has been seen through by our hall master. At this point, what else do you have to say?" Yi Tianhua shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "Hall Master Xue, do you really believe that I'm that kind of person?" This time, without waiting for Xue Zhizhing's reply, Zhang Chunren laughed coldly. "Yi Tianhua, why wouldn't we believe you? Since you've already done such a thing, are you still afraid of others finding out?" Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused. He suddenly laughed coldly and said with a mocking tone, "I understand. You're really afraid of others finding out. Because your plan has been seen through by us, you won't be able to carry out your plan anymore. Isn't that too much of a pity?" Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua could not help but frown. "Zhang Chunren, why don't you want to believe that I'm not lying to you?" Hearing Yi Tianhua's question, Zhang Chunren laughed coldly and shook his head. "Yi Tianhua, I originally believed you. However, after what you've done, I no longer believe you." Yi Tianhua was stunned. "Zhang Chunren, I didn't do anything. Why don't you believe me?" Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sighed and said slowly, "Yi Tianhua, it's precisely because you didn't do anything that I won't believe you." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Yi Tianhua to reply and continued speaking. "Yi Tianhua, if you had agreed to my conditions, I might have believed you. However, what did you do? You acknowledged that your brothers were injured, but you refused to agree to my conditions. Are my conditions more valuable than your brothers?" Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before shaking his head and continuing, "I really feel bad for your two brothers. I'm afraid they didn't expect that in your heart. They're not as good as my conditions. Speaking of which, it's really quite sad." After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed in his heart. How could he not feel sorry for his two brothers? However, if he agreed to Zhang Chunren's conditions, if Zhang Chunren had any ill intentions, then the consequences of 5 years of free information would definitely be 100 times or even 1,000 times more dangerous than the current situation. Moreover, Yi Tianhua also knew that although his two brothers were injured, Zhang Chunren would definitely not dare to be heavy-handed. This was because if Zhang Chunren dared to be heavy-handed, then it would not be a battle between the few of them, but a battle between the South County Shadow Alliance and the South County Tanlei sect. Yi Tianhua believed that even if the South County Tanlei sect was powerful, they would definitely not be willing to start this battle easily. This was because the South County Shadow Alliance was definitely not weak. It could even be said that their strength was definitely not below the South County Tanlei sect. They might even be slightly stronger than the South County Tanlei sect. Under such circumstances, Yi Tianhua did not believe that Zhang Chunren would dare to start a battle between the two sides. It was precisely because of this reason that Yi Tianhua did not look at An Hongda and Du Wudai from the beginning to the end. This was because he believed that Zhang Chunren would definitely not dare to be heavy-handed and start a battle between the South County Shadow Alliance and the South County Tanlei sect. However, these words could only be thought in his heart and could not be said out loud. Seeing that Yi Tianhua did not answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, you have nothing to say this time, right? For your plan, you even abandoned your brothers. Tell me, how can I believe a person like you? Yi Tianhua heard this and shook his head with a bitter smile. Zhang Chunren, things are not as simple as you think. How can I be the kind of person you think I am? Don't worry, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. However, you have to let me investigate this matter first. Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, I don't believe you. You have to solve my problem now. Otherwise, I won't let you leave. Yi Tianhua raised his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Zhang Chunren, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, do you want to leave? Yi Tianhua nodded. I have to leave because I have to go back to investigate this matter and find out what went wrong. Zhang Chunren heard this and his gaze turned cold. Yi Tianhua, what if I don't agree? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua looked at the sword in his hand and sighed. Zhang Chunren, why do you have to do this? You are clearly no match for me. Why do you keep trying to stop me? Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued to speak. Zhang Chunren, swords have no eyes. If I hurt you, I would feel uncomfortable. So, I hope that you will let me leave so that we don't have to be friends. Do you understand? Zhang Chunren shook his head. I don't understand. I just want to tell you that it is impossible for you to leave today. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. Yi Tianhua, there are 4 of us here today. If you want to leave so easily, I am afraid it will not be easy. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua scanned the crowd and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, even if there are 4 of you, you are definitely no match for me. If I want to leave, none of you will be able to stop me. Xue Zhijing, who had been silent all this time, was enraged when he heard Yi Tianhua's words. Yi Tianhua, don't boast shamelessly. Now that there are 4 of us here, you want to leave? Let me tell you, it is impossible. Yi Tianhua turned to look at Xue Zhijing and sighed. Hall Master Xue, why are you so angry? I am speaking the truth. Why do you not believe me? Xue Zhijing was even more enraged when he heard Yi Tianhua's words. Yi Tianhua, since you are so confident that you can escape from the 4 of us, go ahead and try. Let's see if we can stop you. Yi Tianhua sighed again when he heard Xue Zhijing's words. Hall Master Xue, I really don't want to fight with you. If I hurt you, I really don't want to. However, with my strength alone, I will need to use all my strength to deal with the 4 of you. When the time comes, if I lose control and hurt you, it will not be good for our 2 sections. Xue Zhijing flew into a rage when he saw Yi Tianhua brimming with confidence. He suddenly roared and stabbed his sword towards Yi Tianhua. The sword light was like lightning. The sword in Xue Zhijing's hand streaked across the air and stabbed towards Yi Tianhua in an instant. Yi Tianhua sighed when he saw Xue Zhijing's fierce attack. He flicked his wrist and the sword light immediately turned into a light screen, blocking in front of him. When Xue Zhijing's sword stabbed into the light screen, he immediately felt a huge force hit him. Before he could react, he was pushed back 7 or 8 steps by the force before he could stabilize himself. Xue Zhijing looked at Yi Tianhua in shock and said in a trembling voice, You. Xue Zhijing was shocked speechless when he saw Yi Tianhua's terrifying sword. Yi Tianhua sighed, Hall Master Xue, I said before that you are no match for me. If I want to leave, none of you can stop me. Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. The reason why I didn't leave is because I was afraid that you would misunderstand me. Chapter 683. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Xue Zhizheng suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, don't think that you can leave just because your martial arts are higher than mine. At this point, Xue Zhizheng paused before continuing. Yi Tianhua, don't forget that I'm the hall master of the Tanlei sect in the South County. I rely on more than just martial arts, do you understand? Yi Tianhua nodded. Hall Master Xue, I understand. But we have no enmity between us, and you want to use the firearms of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Aren't you afraid of causing a dispute between us? Xue Zhizheng shook his head. Even if there is a dispute, it's caused by you. It has nothing to do with me. Do you understand? Hearing Xue Zhizheng's words, Yi Tianhua shook his head with a bitter smile. Hall Master Xue, why don't you understand until now? I've already said that this matter has nothing to do with me. I don't know anything. How can you blame me? Xue Zhizheng sneered and shook his head. Yi Tianhua, I originally believed in you and thought that you wouldn't do such a thing, but you've disappointed me too much. At this point, Xue Zhizheng paused for a moment before continuing. If you had agreed to Zhang Chuanren's conditions, I might have thought that you really had nothing to do with this matter. However, you didn't agree and were in a hurry to leave. Not only that, you didn't even hesitate to leave your two brothers behind. Yi Tianhua, why are you doing this? Can you tell me? As soon as Xue Zhizheng finished speaking, before Yi Tianhua could speak, Yuan Weiqing spoke first. Hall Master Xue, what else can it be? Yi Tianhua just wants to sneak away and hide in the dark to frame the Tanlei sect in the South County. When Yi Tianhua heard this, he hurriedly waved his hand. Hall Master Xue, you must not believe his words. How could I, Yi Tianhua, do such a thing? The reason why I left is to go back and investigate this matter. I want to see who did it. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, don't pretend. Do you still need to investigate this matter? Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yi Tianhua's reply and continued. Yi Tianhua, you were the one who did this. Why are you still investigating? I think you should admit it now, so that our Hall Master Xue won't make a move on you. Don't regret it then. Xue Zhizheng nodded. Yi Tianhua, our firearms are extremely powerful. You must not let us use this method. Otherwise, if we hurt you, don't blame me. After hearing Xue Zhizheng's words, his expression changed. He knew very well that Xue Zhizheng was not lying. Everyone knew that the firearms of the secret Thunder sect in the South County were extremely powerful. Yi Tianhua was no exception. No matter how good Yi Tianhua's martial arts were, he did not want to face the firearms of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Seeing Yi Tianhua's expression, Yuan Weiqing suddenly laughed and said, Yi Tianhua, if you are afraid, quickly agree to our Vice Hall Master Zhang's condition. If you are late, our Hall Master Xue will make a move. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua let out a long sigh. Yuan Weiqing, don't use the firearms of your secret Thunder sect to scare me. Let me tell you, even if you use firearms, I have nothing to be afraid of. Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer him, he continued. Yuan Weiqing, if you dare to use firearms, don't blame me for being impolite. At that time, we will all die together. No one will have an easy time. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, do you think that if we use firearms, you will still have a chance to die together with us? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him, he continued. Yi Tianhua, let me tell you, once our Xue Tang takes the initiative to use firearms, I'm afraid you won't even have a chance to fight back. What do you have to die together with us? Yi Tianhua, if you know what's good for you, quickly agree to our Vice Hall Master Zhang's condition. We can still consider letting you go this time. If you still insist on being stubborn, then don't blame us for being impolite. Zhang Chunren suddenly said loudly, Yi Tianhua, why are you so stubborn? If you don't agree to our condition now, the consequences will only be that we will use firearms. At that time, are you sure you can dodge our firearms? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Although I'm not sure if I can dodge your firearms, I'm sure I can die together with you. Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, don't scare me. If we really use firearms, even if you want to do something to us, I'm afraid it will be too late. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer, he continued. Yi Tianhua, the reason we haven't done anything now is to give you a chance to understand that we don't have any ill intentions towards you. We just want you to agree to our condition. As long as you agree to our condition, everyone will immediately be reconciled. Isn't that great? Why do we have to make things so difficult? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, the corner of Yi Tianhua's mouth suddenly curled into a cold smile. Zhang Chunren, what's so good about that? If I agree to your condition, I'm afraid I'll fall into your trap. How can I be good? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Yi Tianhua, you've really misunderstood us. Don't you believe that the reason I want you to agree to my condition is because I want you to compensate me and be responsible for my son's matter? Yi Tianhua, I don't want to say anything else. I just want to ask, are you going to compensate me for my son's matter now? After hearing Zhang Chuanren's question, Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I've already said it many times. Wait for me to go back and investigate. I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Are you still not satisfied with that? Zhang Chunren shook his head. What's there to be satisfied with? What if you leave this place and I can't find you again? What's the use of your words then? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer his question, he continued. Yi Tianhua, I just want you to give me an answer now. Otherwise, I won't let you go. At most, we'll all die together. At least I won't let my son down. His father tried his best. Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yi Tianhua couldn't bear it. After all, Zhang Chuanren's son was killed by the snow leopard. Most importantly, Zhang Chunren only had one son. After Zhang Huosheng was killed by the snow leopard, Zhang Chunren no longer had a son. Yi Tianhua could understand this pain, but even if he could, what could he do? Zhang Chunren wouldn't agree to compensate 500,000 gold coins. Yi Tianhua still didn't have 3 million gold coins. As for Zhang Chuanren's second condition, 5 years of free information, Yi Tianhua couldn't agree to it unless he was sure that Zhang Chunren wouldn't use these 5 years of free information to do bad things. However, Yi Tianhua couldn't guarantee that Zhang Chunren wouldn't use these 5 years of free information to do bad things. Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, why do you have to do this? I've already said that I'll definitely take responsibility for this matter. However, you have to give me some time. I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Zhang Chunren, I promise you that I didn't leave here to escape. I just want to go back and investigate this matter. After the investigation is done, I'll be able to give you a satisfactory answer. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren said angrily, Yi Tianhua, this matter is already very clear. Why do you have to go back and investigate before giving me a satisfactory answer? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he suddenly sneered. Without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him, he continued. I understand. Yi Tianhua, you're suspecting me, right? Hearing Zhang Chuanren's words, Yi Tianhua was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. To be honest, Yi Tianhua was suspecting Zhang Chunren because this matter was too strange. His side didn't know about the snow leopard on Qingling Mountain, but Zhang Chuanren's son was killed by the snow leopard on Qingling Mountain. What was going on? Yi Tianhua was very suspicious. The people of the South County Shadow Alliance were all his brothers. He believed that his brothers would definitely not lie to him. Since his brothers would not lie to him, then the problem must be with Zhang Chunren. However, something was not right. Zhang Chunren only had one son, Zhang Huosheng. Could Zhang Chunren be so determined to use his son in exchange for this condition? Tianhua didn't think it was possible, because he didn't think anyone would do that. No matter what, Zhang Huosheng was Zhang Chunren's son. No matter how bad Zhang Chunren was, could he harm his own son? Therefore, although Tianhua suspected Zhang Chunren, he was also very puzzled. Since Zhang Chunren could not harm his son, why would such a problem occur? The brothers of the South County Shadow Alliance would not lie to him, and Zhang Chunren would not joke about his own son. Then, where was the problem? Tianhua was very suspicious. He did not know where the problem was, so he had to go back and investigate to see if the problem was on his side. If he could guarantee that there was no problem on his side, then the problem was on Zhang Chunren's side. If the problem was on Zhang Chunren's side, then no matter how many conditions Zhang Chunren offered, Tianhua could ignore them because this matter had nothing to do with him. If he did not care, no one could find fault with him in terms of morality. Seeing that Tianhua did not speak, Zhang Chunren suddenly shouted, "Tianhua, are you suspecting me? Are you suspecting that I harmed my son?" Hearing this, Tianhua knew that he could not remain silent. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Zhang Chunren, that's not what I meant. I just want to say that after I investigate this matter clearly, we'll talk about compensation." This time, before Zhang Chunren could speak, Yuan Weiqing had already said loudly, "Tianhua, how can our Deputy Hall Master Zhang have so much time to waste? I advise you to agree to our conditions quickly so that you don't offend our Hall Master Xue." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua turned to look at Xue Zhizheng and said seriously, "Hall Master Xue, I will definitely not ignore this matter. I just want to go back and investigate to see where the problem is and how to compensate Deputy Hall Master Zhang. I hope you can agree." Speaking of this, Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Xue Zhizheng to answer him. "Hall Master Xue, our Shadow Alliance has no enmity with your South County Tanlei sect. I don't want this matter to hurt the harmony between our two sections. Hall Master Xue, I hope you can understand what I mean. Wouldn't it be better for everyone to resolve this matter peacefully?" Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. "Tianhua, I think you don't want to resolve this matter peacefully. Instead, you want to destroy our Tanlei sect, right?" Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, "Yes, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you're right. The reason why Tianhua didn't agree to our conditions is that he wants to go back and deal with us. Once our Tanlei sect is destroyed, he naturally doesn't have to agree to any conditions." Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and then said loudly, "Tianhua, you have a good plan. Unfortunately, we have seen through your plan. It's no longer effective to use this move now. If you know what's good for you, quickly agree to our conditions. Otherwise, we will really have to use firearms." After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Xue Zhizheng's heart moved. He turned to look at Tianhua and said with a sneer, "Tianhua, do you really want to go back and deal with us?" When Tianhua heard this, he was shocked. If it was Yuan Weiqing who said this, Tianhua wouldn't care too much because Yuan Weiqing didn't have the final say. However, Xue Zhizheng was different. He was the hall master of the Tanlei sect in the South County. He was a man of his word. If he thought that Tianhua went back to deal with the Tanlei sect in the South County, then the entire Tanlei sect in the South County would think so too. Tianhua hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Hall Master Xue, why would you think so? The reason why I went back was really to investigate this matter. As for the kind of thing that Yuan Weiqing said, how could I do it?" At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing, "Hall Master Xue, our South County Shadow Alliance has no enmity with your Tanlei sect. Why would I do that? It doesn't make sense, so please believe me. I definitely won't do that. The reason why I went back was to investigate why this matter happened. Other than that, I really don't have any other intentions. Hall Master Xue, I hope you believe me. Don't cause a dispute between us because of this matter. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.